help that shopping center to maneuver through ours and vice versa. At the March 23rd work session that we had with the planning board, there was a question about whether or not that this project might constitute the expansion of a non-conforming use, because we were taking two buildings and two parcels and merging them and proposing a new conforming building on the lot. And the existing garage building, mechanical repair garage, is a pre-existing non-conforming use with a CO dating back to 1978. On March 1st, on May 1st, I had met with the chief building inspector, and I have since learned from them, and I will submit a letter from him that says that this proposal would not constitute the expansion of a non-conforming use. So I will submit a letter to that effect when we have it in hand. So I welcome any questions from the board. I wasn't sure if I should say some of the comments that you guys had last time, but I'm just here to listen to you guys. So, thank you.
So is this a seasonal situation with the ice cream tables?
I don't think so. Well,
Are they outdoors?
I'm sorry. Yes, the seats are all outdoors.
Okay.
Yes, they are not proposing any indoor seats at this time.
So it's seasonal?
It is seasonal. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Does anyone like to speak to this application? Okay, hearing.
Get a check and sign.
Okay.
Zoom also. Zoom also.
No, anyone on Zoom?
No.
No one on Zoom. Okay, so we'll close with a 10-day written comment period.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis.
Second.
Second by Craig, all in favor.
Well, if I just may, is this a pre-submission conference?
It is a pre-submission.
30
conference.
days.
30-day written comment
As
period.
amended.
As amended, motion by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you very much.
What we've made an executive decision to do is to do the best application next, because you're all here for that, and we have overflow capacity. You're welcome. Let me just say that when you come up to the mic to speak, and we have quite a few, give us your name and your affiliation. Please try to be succinct. You know, to impose a 3-minute timing is tough. And, you know, you came out to speak, but try not to abuse it. So we can hear all of you. We're very interested to hear all of you. We've received all of your letters. They've all been read. So we don't really need to read this into the record because it's open. We've left this hearing open. So let me start with, we have this, reading now from the sign-in sheets where you all came. So Bridget Mays, M-A-H-E-S, please. Mar.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
I brought something that I want to put on the wall, but I was told I couldn't put it on until after the developer spoke, because he's speaking.
I didn't know if the applicant was speaking
Is the
first, so I
applicant-
misspoke.
He can put it on the wall.
But you can put it up.
So, okay, so I don't.
Is the
I
applicant
don't
here?
want to
Is the applicant even
You
here?
might help me.
Okay, go ahead, Bridget. No, go ahead.
No,
and
you want me
speak.
to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead and speak.
Okay. Hi. Good evening. My name is Bridget Marr. I live at 3 Cedar Point Road in Hampton Bays. I bought my home 25 years ago as my retirement dream. And now my dream is becoming a bit of a nightmare. I live across the road from the proposed BEST site, and so do many people in these 2 rooms. We are extremely upset that such a controversial installation, which clearly does not belong in any residential area, is moving forward so quickly with a fast-track application and a special exception zoning permit. I'm a little nervous.
All right.
And with little or no communication with the residents in the area. News of the North Road site began to spread by word of mouth and through social media only in the last couple of months. Residents began signing petitions, writing letters and emails to you, to the Southampton Press, and sharing whatever information we could. We had very little to work with. Googling and phone calls got us some information, but we are still in the dark and have so many questions. In an effort to get some answers, I requested the project documentation. Thank you, Anthony. I requested it on May 30th and I got it on Monday. I met with some neighbors to review the documents. This cursory review left us with even more questions and concerns. Some quick examples, and there are many. The preliminary fire safety compliance plan seemed brief and pointed to the National Fire Protection Association 855 manual. I tried to look at that manual. You have to purchase it. Has anyone read this manual? Is this the most comprehensive standard? And are there other guidelines for dealing with best risks? The emergency response plan had some generic verbiage, and it had a boilerplate feel to it. Southampton town codes are cited throughout the document, but there appear to be aspects of the project that conflict with the town codes. Energy storage is complicated technology, and finding the proper site for best facilities is even more complicated. Best technology is relatively new and evolving rapidly. According to one study, as best development and deployment increases, fire safety is becoming an issue of growing severity. The planning board in the town of Southold, made a measured and applauded decision to put a moratorium on best applications until they can gather more data. Southampton should do the same thing. Yes, we need to implement greener energy solutions, but it should not be rushed, and nor should it be at the expense of town residents. There needs to be a townwide plan for how and where to build these facilities. We need a full and impartial environmental impact study. We can't plan for every possible scenario, but putting best where people live is already a misstep. I have heard neighbors say they will move if this goes forward. I have heard neighbors say they are losing sleep over worrying about this. As members of the planning board, you have very difficult decisions to make, and I appreciate the work you do. I suggest the best project is even more difficult due to the inherent risks. I also ask you to put yourself in our shoes. As we all breathe the contaminated air from the fires in Canada, I ask you to tap on the brakes until we come up with the right solution. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I know you'll want to applaud everybody, but please just hold the applaud. The applicants have come in now, they're a little late, so now is an opportunity for you to take the podium. Yes?
Thank you. I'm getting a message from people on Zoom that they can't hear. They can't hear, they can hear the speaker a little bit, they can't hear you guys at all.
Is there an audio problem now again?
No. You might be on air.
Closer to you.
More important, they hear the speaker. We're here to listen
Nice if
to.
they could hear you.
Yeah,
You
that's
guys are
right.
important.
Okay, so please introduce yourselves
Surely.
and,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Keith Archer, Harris Bloom and Archer. And we represent the applicant in connection with this application. We've been here a couple times before, and we're happy to be here tonight. As you may recall, we've been representing the applicant in this request for a special permit for site plan approval for a battery energy storage facility, or BESS, on a 4.9 acre parcel located on North Road, approximately 90 feet south of the eastbound Sunrise Highway, between the exit and entrance ramps at exit 66. As testified previously, the property is mostly undeveloped, with the exception of one single-family dwelling and 4 small cottages, all of which are proposed to be demolished. The application was the subject of a public hearing on April 27th, at which time there was a full exposition of the application with the aid of Nick Petrakis and Paul Rogers from Energy Safety Response Group, Kevin Maher from AKRF, the applicant's environmental consultant, and Gus Hadidi from Rhineland Energy, who at that time responded to all questions regarding this application. Now, the hearing was adjourned and a follow-up meeting took place at the planning board on May 11th, with the planning board directing that the applicant consult with the Hampton Bays Fire Department with respect to their ability to respond to any possible fire events at the property and the means of time and timing of dealing with such events to ensure that they have proper training and equipment. The applicant was also asked to consult with the town fire marshal regarding any code compliance issues the fire marshal may have for this project. The applicant was additionally directed to consult with the Hampton Bays Water District to discuss whether there is sufficient water capacity and water pressure to deal with any emergency where water is required. Finally, based upon the noise analysis submitted with the application, the applicant was asked to create a visual aid depicting the location of the closest residential properties and the decibel levels to be experienced at each location. And what I'd like to do is, having said that, I'd like to hand up, and I think we do have a slide on it, but we might want to just hold off until.
We have a map right on the wall.
Do you have the slide to the?
Oh, I have, yeah, you
With the
emailed me.
DVs? Okay, whatever. But we're not quite out there yet.
Okay.
But I think I'll submit some copies to the board.
So you plan to address these issues?
Tonight,
Yes.
absolutely. All of them. And there is what? So before describing the meetings that the applicant and his consultants had with fire and municipal representatives to discuss the matters raised by the board on May 11th, I'd like to remind the board that as part of this application, the applicant, as required by the town code, submitted, among other documents, a comprehensive environmental assessment analyzing all of the potential environmental issues associated with the proposed project, as well as submitting a fire safety compliance plan, an emergency response plan describing the methods for responding to unexpected occurrences. All is required under the town code. The fire safety plan and the compliance plan, emergency response plan, are actually requirements that come out of a model code that was developed by NYSERDA, which is the New York State agency, specifically for battery storage facilities. That code has been utilized by many municipalities on Long Island and throughout the state in implementing and establishing best regulations. Now, the fire safety compliance plan and emergency response plan were reviewed and accepted by the various town, county, and state agencies and departments involved in the coordinated review of this application as part of the SEQRA process. The noise analysis submitted with the application was reviewed by the town and shows compliance with the town's noise ordinance. With respect to the meetings with the Hampton Bays Fire Department and Hampton Bays Water District. So, as requested by the board, the applicant met separately with the Hampton Bays Fire Department and the Hampton Bays Water District to discuss the practical implementation of the proposed safety systems. The two agencies have been coordinating through Hampton Bays Fire Chief James Cappers, who was also, as you know, the superintendent of the Hampton Bays Water District. The agencies understood the extensive safety mechanisms and redundancies which will be in place for the proposed facility and the training of fire professionals which will be offered by the applicant and its consultants as needed. I'm pleased to report that Chief Cappers was satisfied with the safety measures and precautions to be taken by the applicant. In fact, when interviewed by the East Hampton Press, I believe the date of that publication was May 30th, Chief Cappers stated that he felt assured that there are proper safety measures in place after learning of the applicant's plans with respect to monitoring and containment measures within each individual battery enclosure to avoid the spread of any fire to other batteries. The same edition of the paper indicated that he reported that the meeting held was productive, and he felt reassured by the applicant's plans and the actions they were taking, protective actions that the applicant was taking. To provide additional comfort with respect to water availability, for defensive firing capabilities if needed for the facility, as well as to supplement local fire safety needs, the applicant is committed to installing a new fire hydrant on the best facility side of North Road, as well as installing a standpipe in the Shinnecock Canal to provide more than sufficient water resources for the area. Now, at the meeting with James Cappers of the Water District, it was advised that there is sufficient water pressure in the area and that it would not be an issue should water be required. However, the applicant agreed to conduct, or have conducted, a fire hydrant flow test to ensure adequate water pressure. The test was done by the Water District's outside engineering firm, H2M, which found that there was sufficient water pressure needed in an emergency situation. The applicant also met with Southampton Fire Chief Fire Marshal, John Rankin, and corresponded multiple times with him over fire codes and system capabilities. Chief Rankin was informed that the best facility will comply with all state and local fire codes as required by law, including NFPA regulations. This was also mentioned in that article. Based upon this representation, no further concerns were raised by the Southampton Chief Fire Marshal or his team. Now, with respect to noise, that slide that we gave to you, that you put up, that with respect to the issue of noise, I think it's number 4 or 5, at the April 27th, 2023 public hearing, the board requested that the applicant prepare an aerial
That was it.
indicating the decibel level of the closest residential properties during operation to the BESS system. Now remember, there was already a noise analysis done and reviewed. The chart prepared by the applicant's environmental consultant, AKRF, shows that the closest residential structures are 300 to 400 feet from the BESS facility and will experience sound levels of no more than 43 decibels, which, as shown on the chart, it's hard to read up there, but it's shown on the ones we submitted to the board, is equivalent to the sound you would typically hear in your home living room, confirming that the facility will not have any noise impacts on surrounding residential properties. So where does this leave us? Following is a brief chronology of the path taken by this application to get where it is today. On February 10th,
Am I supposed to put up the slide? I wasn't sure if I was.
no, I
Oh, okay.
think the board's seen it, I think everybody's seen it. Thank you. On February 10th, 2022, a pre-submission hearing was held by the planning board, at which time a full exposition of the project was presented. The applicant and its consultants also appeared before the planning board on September 8th, 2022, for a secret hearing, at which time the applicant and its consultants responded to the board's questions regarding the project. The September 8th, 2022 secret hearing was adjourned and continued to October 27th, 2022, to allow the applicant to provide written responses, additional written responses, and documentation to questions raised by the board. The applicant provided these additional responses to the town planning board and planning department. The applicant returned on October 27th, 2022, to continue the hearing on a secret determination for the project, at which time the planning board issued a negative declaration of significance pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. The applicant's engineering and site plans have been reviewed and deemed compliant by the town engineer. The Suffolk County Planning Commission, at its meeting yesterday, voted to recommend approval of this project. The process to date has consumed over 16 months with the applicant and its environmental,
Almost 7 o'clock.
with the applicant and its environmental and consulting team providing additional information to the planning and building department staff, including a very comprehensive expanded environmental assessment that was submitted with the application, which reviewed and analyzed all of the special exception requirements and site plan requirements and demonstrated that the project complied with all applicable site plan and special permit requirements. After all of these submissions, reviews, resubmissions, and hearings, the applicant has demonstrated its compliance with the special exception and site plan requirements of the town code, and based on this board's issuance of a negative declaration on October 27th, is requesting that the hearing be closed and the board approve the applicant's request for a special exception and site plan approval for this proposed BESS facility. We have available today some of our consultants. I think one may be on Zoom. Yeah, so to the extent that there are other questions, we're happy to answer them at the direction of the board.
Do you have written reports from fire, emergency, water, and noise? Do you have?
No, but there is an article in which they are quoted. So we didn't actually get any written report, but let me hand this up. And believe me, if they had objections, you would have heard about it. So anyway, we're available, and our consultants are available to respond to any questions that the board may direct us to respond to.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Archer.
Thank you.
If you can stay on standby, because we have lots of people who would like to speak, okay? And you might be able to address a question or two. So I'm going to go right back into the public. Again, please be mindful of time. You know, see if you can be succinct. If somebody says something that you're just repeating, you can just pass by on your turn. Okay, so next on the list is Beth Muir.
Bill.
Bill?
Yep.
Bill Muir,
Bill Muir.
okay, great, Bill.
Good evening. My name is Bill Muir. I was a supervisor of system sales and engineering at GE, working on projects from steel mills to chemical plants. In retirement, I am a past president of the Science Museum of Long Island. I have to just pause for a moment and say our cleanup hitter, Mike Parletta, who is the environmental engineer at LaGuardia Airport, was due to be here tonight, but due to, again, the fire, you could imagine he's not here. I'll just give you one quote from Mr. Parletta. He said he would rather live next to a nuclear plant than to the BESS site. And in fact, he will be living next to the BESS site if it goes through. For 50 years, my family has lived at 24 Old North Highway in a neighborhood of well-kept homes, gardens, about 100 feet from the proposed BESS site. Tonight, my neighbors are ably expressing their grave concerns regarding this site. Rather than amplify their alarms, I will concentrate on one single point. The operative premise of this application is flawed. By no honest definition can this site be classified as remote or industrial. 2 minutes of examining the tax maps will disprove the applicant's claims. Better yet, walk the site and the neighborhood. Clearly, this is the wrong place for this project. In good conscience, you would never want your family to live right next to BESS, and neither do we. Long Island is 118 miles long. It is 23 miles wide. But along the canal, it is only 1,400 feet wide. That's the wrong place to put a huge, humming potential time bomb. Here is a recent article from the Journal of Loss Prevention and Processes. It goes into it's only 60 days old, it goes into all the latest developments on the hazards of BESS. It points out that this is not a mature technology. Fires and explosions are regular events. There is an entire database that has been compiled on them. It concludes, several of these incidents experience significant consequences in the form of fire, explosion, and first responder hospitalizations. It states, large-scale BESS installations like this one can be located near electrical infrastructure, but not in residential neighborhoods. Some of you have seen a lithium fire. I have. The word inferno is not adequate to describe this hellscape. It burns at 2,000 degrees Celsius. Water would not put out 30 volts of burning lithium. If any single ounce of lithium decides to cook off, as it does 200 times a year in New York City alone, if a terrorist simply threw a brick of C4 explosive over a 4-foot fence, 400,000 people could be trapped east of that choke point, to say nothing of my lithium-gassed and incinerated neighbors. I am very sympathetic to you folks on the planning board being asked to pass judgment on this matter. The preponderance of expertise is all on the side of those advocating approval. I've been there. The lithium storage true believers have flooded you with opinions, and tonight with anecdotes and data that have no reasonable way, that you have no reasonable way of evaluating on this fast track. Without demeaning these experts, by no means are they disinterested parties. That's why you should not be stampeded into a decision tonight. What to do? Option 1, this is not a remote industrial area. Follow the advice of the Hampton Bays Civic Association and recommend reapplication in light of the multiple negative impacts of this site recommendation. Option 2, grant a moratorium and use the time to conduct an independent environmental impact study along with comprehensive safety, security, and emergency management plans, with the applicants funding the work but not selecting the board's objective consultants. Option 3, recommend that the applicant seek a more appropriate site. Too many caution signals are flashing to pass over wide community opposition. Who benefits from approving this proposal tonight? Not my neighbors, not the town, and certainly not the planning board. What's the rush? Vote prudently for caution. Do not approve this project tonight. I'll go back to my science museum days. To quote Albert Einstein, concern for your neighbors and their fate must always be the chief interest of your technical endeavors. Never forget them in the midst of your diagrams and equations. And finally, thank you very much for the demanding service that I know you put in for the town and for your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. Can you submit that? Just bring it over there.
Jackie, do you want to make clarity that there's no vote this evening?
Yeah, I think they know that. Yeah. Amy Kerwin? We're going to try to keep comments to around 4 minutes, okay? So please be mindful of that. Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight, right?
Then you have to send out the pizza.
We already missed it.
We thought about it.
We missed our dinner.
I'll be very brief. My name is Amy Kerwin. I live at 17 Cedar Point Road. A lot of neighbors, so you probably know the tall black house on the way to the beach with the very loud barking dogs. I apologize. They are actually nice. I could say that in person. They're very nice dogs. I'm just going to speak more from a personal perspective and my personal feelings on this. I don't have the expertise and I haven't had time to read up in depth, but I will say that this is not the place for this facility. It is a residential neighborhood. In fact, one of the homes that you've mentioned being demolished is my friend's home, and she knew nothing about this. She has not been informed that her home is going to be demolished, and I find that pretty appalling. Perhaps you've told others it hasn't gotten to her, but she does in fact rent the large house right on North Road, and she knows nothing about this. She couldn't be here tonight, but it did come as a surprise to her when I told her. As you said, just find another location. We do not want this in our neighborhood. You say that the noise is within the code, but what does that mean? What is the sound? Because some of us, like me, have what people don't believe in, but misophonia, and I'm very sensitive to sound. So we also have a very tall house, and we hear more than most of our neighbors because we're above the trees. And so we hear a lot more, so maybe we're a little further than you say, but I would like to know what that's actually going to sound like, because a loud hum is probably one of the worst things that anybody wants to hear in their neighborhood. As far as fire concern, we all just know that there's a facility on Cove Hollow that just had a fire. It was contained, but that doesn't mean that it won't be different the next time. So I should have prefaced with that. I believe in this technology. I know it's important. I believe in doing things that'll help our environment to preserve the future, but it has to be done the right way and in the right place. So I know that the coding is complicated, and this may fall under something that could be approved, but things can also be changed in light of a situation that isn't really appropriate. This is a residential neighborhood, as I said. You see it here. Homes are very close to this. It's on a slope. If there's a fire, there's water that's putting out the fire. The water drains into the canal. I don't know the science of lithium battery runoff, but it doesn't sound good to me. That's really all I have to say, just that it's not good. Please help us make this not happen.
Thank you, Amy. Rome Arnold?
So I'm Rome Arnold. I live at Herrick and Little Plains.
Herrick and?
Little Plains, 150 Herrick. So that's the village, but it's close to the town, so I figured I'd come make comments. I have degrees from Yale and Harvard, but what's at issue here is common sense. I must say I'm really amused that we might get one more fire hydrant if this thing is approved. So some of you may be aware of the Felicity Ace. This is a ship that had one electric car caught fire, set fire to 4,000 other cars. A lot of water around the ship didn't help. It went down 6 days later. A lot of this is abstract, and so I thought we have a particular episode, which was one of these in Chandler, Arizona, as you may be aware. The headlines are interesting. Fire at Chandler Battery Storage Facility prompts evacuations. Hazmat, that was Fox News. Hazmat situation causes quarter-mile area evacuation. That was Arizona ABC. This is amazing. Battery storage facility in Chandler continues to burn after 2 weeks. Now we hear all this fancy talk. By the way, snarky comment. How many of these people applying for this actually live in this part of the?
Can you address your comments to us, please?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
So the point, I'm really amazed. We really need to get the fire department here, because I'm kind of amazed at what I'm hearing versus everything you read. The Tesla, well, start with a car battery fire. First of all, you put it out. 5,000 gallons of water. One Tesla, according to most fire departments, when you read it, 35,000 gallons of water to put out one Tesla. There's a situation where a Tesla was pulled into a junkyard, 3 weeks later caught fire. Boom, like that. The notion that somehow, oh gee, if one of these starts to burn, that no problem, we're gonna come put it out before it sets, I know, I gotta get my
Stick to the mic, otherwise you won't be recorded.
This is just plain common sense. I don't know where all these consultants came from with all these, but just, all you gotta do is read the news. Chandler, just recalled all of their electric cars, all of them, 6,000 I-Pace fancy luxury cars. Why? battery fires, and they don't know why. But somehow we're supposed to believe that this is a system that we know the problems and we can put the fire out when it happens. One last comment on the Chandler, Arizona BESS facility that burned. It smoldered for 2 weeks. The fire department, it isn't that they're not brave. They didn't go in. They couldn't go in. They knew that if you've ever seen a video of a e-bike battery bursting into flames, it goes smoke, smoke, boom. There's no warning. Fire department knows that. So I don't know exactly what kind of conversation happened. I think, frankly, you ought to get the fire chief here and ask him questions. How do they put these fires? Safety, what does that mean? That we're going to ring the bell and everybody leaves? Anyway, as you might guess, I'm against this.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to announce the next two people because there's an audio delay. So Peter Governale, and then followed by Lorraine Florentine.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Governale.
My name is Peter Governale. I live at 25 Old North Highway. We're neighbors. I didn't know about this until 2 weeks ago when I came out to my house. It's a summer house. It's been in the family since 1950. So I've grown up here since forever. Have friends forever. So when I heard about this, I was surprised. I did do some research. I did contact. Actually, Mike Pauletta is also a good friend of mine who was also the environmental.
Could you lean back a little bit? Not so close.
Too close, too far. So again, common sense is a good way to put this. If you look at this screen, the facility is right by the train bridge. You have the Sunrise Highway. You have the ramps. You have a lot of evacuation in and out routes right there. If it ever had an explosion or some type of event, okay, you'd never be able to get out. You'd be locked in. You would be trapped. You would be in a situation where you don't know where to go. And then you have potential chemical situations coming into play. Again, to put the fire out or explosion out, you'd have runoff coming into the canal. There's a lot of environmental, health, and really scary concerns about this. All those things that they spoke about, all the tests and research reports, look into those, okay? I mean, ask the fire department, ask the chief, ask the people about this. I don't really take that. I take that as a grain of salt because I've been through this before in my life on other things. So it's a common sense issue. It's in the wrong place. We have so much land in our area here. Other land away from people, remote areas. It can be put anywhere else besides where it is right now. It's in the wrong place. I'm for environmental energy, green energy. It's just in the wrong spot.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Governale. So following Lorraine Florentine will be next, and then followed by Marion Bowden.
I think everyone that spoke said everything that I wanted to say, so I won't repeat that. However, lithium batteries, the mining of them is a suspect in and of itself. And then I worry about the disposal of them once they wear out, and I'm sure they will wear out. I don't know where they go then, and that is a serious worry. The other thing is, what is happening with the property next to the car wash on Montauk Highway? Is that people have mentioned that is another area that is being discussed for BESS. Now, is that being discussed? It's a separate application. It's a separate application, so that's a whole other thing that we will have to come to a meeting for?
They'll be noticed.
There'll be a notice. So now we have the one, then we're gonna have to come for another, for that. Is that?
Application hasn't been presented to this board at all.
Okay,
No,
so,
it's the application by the car wash.
Yeah. Next, this is one in Hampton Bays.
The one in Hampton Bays by the car wash with the 12-foot wall.
Key capture.
I see that the land is in contract, so somebody bought it, and I don't,
I don't know where they are in the process, but it is an application, and they have to comply with the town code in terms of the
So they have to do the same
requirements.
thing that we're doing now,
Correct.
So
so.
can I clarify for everybody?
Sure, yeah.
The planning board did a pre-submission on that one, and we raised a lot of issues, as we do when we review these
comply.
applications. And they have not yet submitted a formal application. So we have reviewed a pre-application on that particular property, but they haven't submitted a formal application.
Thanks,
yet.
Anthony.
No problem.
Thanks.
Thank you. So, will what we say here impact your decision on what happens there? Or do we come back and say the same things over again to you?
All the information that you're providing us is recorded, so, and can be used. What's your address, Ms. Florentine? What's your address?
Hampton Bays,
Your-
Pine Street.
Pine Street, okay. So Marion Bowden, followed by Patricia Hamill.
I'm sorry this map isn't higher. I hope everybody can see it or come up and see it.
We
It
can see
shows
it,
over
Marion.
200 homes in the immediate vicinity of the project. And here's where the
Careful.
plan would be. Okay, yeah. If somebody moves it up, that would be great. Everybody could see it. Okay, I have this blown up from an official Southampton town map. That's old, so actually, a little older, so actually there's probably more houses there now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Marion, state your name for the record, for the audience.
Sure, I will, happily, Dennis. For the record, I'm Marion Bowden from Hampton Bays, and I'm former vice chair of the Southampton Democratic Party. I'm former president of the Southampton Democratic Club and former president of the Hampton Bays Civic Association. I thought I retired about 15 years ago, but recent Hampton Bays issues have dragged me back into the fray. I'm not very happy about it, and I'm now vice president of the Civic Association. I went down a notch, thank God. I'm telling you all this because I realize taking a stand opposite your colleagues in town hall can be uncomfortable, at least, and can also come at a personal cost. It has cost me as a Democrat a little bit, taking some of these stands. The proposed best facility application has been riddled with problems from the beginning. Some appear to have been innocent mistakes, while others reek of of less benign motives. Like many, when I first read about the system, I thought it sounds pretty good. You know, an energy storage system, green energy, and green. I didn't realize the technology. I think I was thinking of blown up car batteries, you know, in bigger size. And when I started reading about the lithium, I started to take note, and it really was scary. Much of the information that's being presented is tentative, unproven, and it shows a certain amount of danger as far as I'm concerned. We also didn't realize where it was going to be located. The documents all said Law Board Road. So a lot of people thought, oh, it's not near me because I'm not near Law Board Road. So no one really panicked, but then we finally found out in April, late in April, right before the meeting here, that it was actually Starboard Road, which is right there, it's on the map. And so when we finally realized what was going on, we got a little even more nervous. We have a supervisor, this is kind of ironic, who touts his desire for more tourism in Hampton Bays, and then promotes this project, which is only steps away from our most popular recreational sites like Meshutt Beach and the popular Beach Hut, like it or not, the Shinnecock Canal with its marina, its fishing, its unique locks, its peaceful views, and opportunities to see gorgeous yachts up close and personal. Once we saw Frank Sinatra. And Rosalind Russell was with him, for your information. I would have expected that the town board, as my elected representatives and our land management department, would be there as gatekeepers to act in the best interest of Hampton Bays' its people first and foremost. As awareness of what was happening grew, so did our alarm at their behavior. And I will interject here, fire department, water authority. It's very interesting to note that the fire chief is the same person who's in charge of the water department, and it's no big secret that jobs are gotten one through the other, and that who are the water commissioners, who's in charge of the water authority? The very town board who seems to be pushing this project. So going back again to conscience, how honest and open will the water department be when their job may even be on the line? So I just want to mention that. The board's heard all kinds of procedural and technical details, and I'm not going to go into it. I just want to do a few things. Why did the town tweak zoning to allow best facilities in all area when a cursory internet on the search on the internet even reveals, fire threat, but that the biggest problem is noise? I was amazed with that. The constant hum 24/7. The developer claimed it was 55 at the last meeting. Tonight we hear 43. Interesting. Which boundary? There was 55 at the boundary. Which boundary? Oh, I'm sorry.
Scares me.
If you notice, it's a big oval where. One good thing about 55 decibels, it's reported to be 18 times softer than your average rock concert. Good to know. But also, I discovered, my major was psych, so I'm kind of interested in this. The constant background noise, which comes from machines, can harm your brain. It overstimulates the auditory cortex, which is the part of the brain that helps you perceive sound. And the problem is even worse in children. They've discovered children closer, like in high rises, closer to traffic, have more. Okay, Dennis, thank you. A football, I'll mention, a football field away. It's a football field away from the houses. A football field is 300 feet. For Pete's sakes, give me a break. Anyway, what I want to say is one thing about, I know you have to see through some razzle-dazzle and some jibber-jabber, but I'd like a quote I want to share it with you. No prior pledge can ensure loyalty if the cause itself becomes unworthy in the mind and conscience of the individual. In such cases, dishonoring the oath of allegiance may be a nobler course of action. I urge you to rescind the negative declaration, and if not, please don't close on this application tonight. There's a lot of work to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you. Okay, so Patricia Hamill is next, followed by Eileen McPhailin.
Good evening, I'm Patricia Hamill. I live on King Street in Hampton Bays, and I am here as Secretary of the Hampton Bays Civic Association. I have been asked to read a letter that was submitted to you, Ms. LaFaro, from Liz Hook, one of the directors. This was dated May 31st, 2023. It went to you as Chair of the Planning Board, Department of Land Management, Town of Southampton, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York, regarding the Canal Southampton Battery Storage Facility on North Road. Dear Ms. LaFaro, I write on behalf of the Hampton Bays Civic Association regarding the negative declaration issued by the Planning Board for the proposed BESS facility on North Road in Hampton Bays. Under New York State law, the Planning Board has a non-discretionary duty to rescind the negative declaration issued for the proposed BESS facility on North Road by Canal Southampton Battery Storage because the members of the board did not have full information about the significant environmental hazards posed by such a facility at the time it issued its decision. The SEQRA regulations impose a non-discretionary duty on a reviewing agency to rescind a negative declaration if new information becomes available indicating that the proposed action may have a significant effect on the environment. The code is noted. At any time prior to its decision to undertake, fund, or approve an action, a lead agency must rescind a negative declaration when substantial new information is discovered. The negative declaration was issued by the board on October 27, 2022, yet just 6 months later at an April 13, 2023 planning board meeting, the planning board made a recommendation to the town board that a moratorium be put in place on all BESS facilities because the members of the board did not feel they had sufficient knowledge or information about such facilities to be able to make planning decisions regarding their applications. 1 week later, on April 27, 2023, Hampton Bays residents attended a planning board public hearing about the North Road facility and voiced their serious concerns about many significant environmental hazards that had not been properly considered by the planning board when it made its decision. At that meeting, it was very clear that the planning board members had not been aware of the significant risk posed by lithium-ion battery fires and had not been aware that local emergency responders had no knowledge or training in how to cope with such fires. They were similarly not aware that the limited water supply in the Hampton Bays Water District would not be able to supply the copious amounts of water that would be needed to extinguish and cool down such fires, nor were they aware that the noise level of these facilities would significantly impact the residents whose homes surround the property selected for this facility. Hampton Bays residents were very vocal in their concerns about the hazards of this facility and presented the planning board with detailed information regarding the known risks of these facilities. The very fact that the planning board recommended a moratorium on these facilities suggests that the negative declaration was issued without sufficient information. It is impossible to understand how the planning board could approve this facility and yet halt all other applications until its members have a better understanding of the technology and hazards involved. The planning board has now been provided with this new information. It has a non-discretionary duty to rescind the negative declaration it issued for this BESS facility. The language of the regulation is mandatory. Should the planning board choose to approve this BESS facility application, the residents of Hampton Bays will file suit in state court to rescind that decision. We should not have to resort to legal action to protect our home and our families. Our elected leaders and their appointed boards should be more concerned about our health and safety than about the profits of a business. We are asking you to do the right thing for the people you serve. And that was signed sincerely, Elizabeth I. Hook, Director, Hampton Bays Civic Association, and a CC went to the Southampton Town Board by email and to Sunday Schermeyer, Town Clerk, also by email. Thank you.
Great,
for
thank you
your
very
attention.
much. Eileen McFallon, followed by Lori Verdesky.
Hi, Eileen McFallon, Hampton Bays resident. I'm not close to where the facility is going to be. I've been a full-time resident for 42 years. There are many times that I thought I should be at the planning board meetings for certain decisions being made for what's going on in our town, but have never been to one because it's not been as important to me as this situation. My question is, who is going to benefit? What towns will benefit from this facility? Beyond Hampton Bays, I'm assuming. Do we know? Do you know, I mean? What other towns will benefit besides Hampton Bays if it's used?
Well, the intent is to supply the power into area-wide
To the grid.
power grid. So I don't think it benefits any one community.
So it will not only possibly, hopefully, at least benefit Hampton Bays, it might benefit other towns.
Yes.
It should.
It's going to be an area-wide, yeah. The power grid services the whole South Fork.
So there is a possibility that it could be put elsewhere, or maybe a smaller one, maybe broken down to have a much smaller one in Hampton Bays, a smaller one in another town. Is that a possibility?
We're taking your recommendations. These are all, that's all information for us to posit and to discuss, so.
Okay. I do understand you're a planning board. Beyond if you find everything to be legitimate and in order, who else do we appeal to beyond you?
Every decision made by this board is challengeable in court.
Yeah. Article 78, unfortunately, you know. if
Well, the decision where to site these facilities is made by your legislative board, the town board.
Town board.
Whether it goes in a residential area, industrial area, they're the decision makers. I mean, we administer the code that they enact.
So if it is approved by this board, we could appeal to the town board?
No.
Or is that too late?
No, that's too late.
Yeah.
Yes, no?
You could appeal to the town board now.
Not after the approval.
Once, you can appeal to the town board anytime you wish.
Anytime you
However,
want.
to be effective on this application, you would have to do it prior to a decision. Once you make a decision, or this board makes a decision, it then is in the court's hands, and you would do it by virtue of an Article 78 in Supreme Court.
So the town board already knows that Hampton Bays is not comfortable with this?
I think so.
And you all know that?
Did you let them know?
I think so.
We know.
If you CC'd them on your.
Yes, they know.
Okay.
And
Great.
to be clear, this evening is really just for us to listen to public comment, which goes into the record and, you know, furthers our discussion and decision-making process. So it's an important juncture, and there's no vote tonight. It's just for us to listen to all of you
Right.
and make a good decision based on listening.
And many of the questions that you asked,
Understood.
we then put forward to the applicant and said,
Right.
you know, the speaker asked a question, can you please answer it?
Right.
I much appreciate it. I'm going to make one suggestion. You do fix your microphone system. I've been here before. It doesn't work.
I know. We've been asking for
Thank you.
years. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're not charged.
So we have Lori Fedeschi, followed by Roger Moores.
Hello.
Hi. Just tell us your address too,
Lauren
please.
Verdeschi, 1 Pine Tree Place, Hampton Bays.
1 Pine Tree Place.
0.5 miles from the proposed facility. You know, I do really just want to say that I know there's something we all agree on here. It is really probably a good idea to think of new ways to use renewable energy. You know, I don't think anyone's against that. And obviously a lot of other people feel like we're rushing into this particular solution to a battery storage and using lithium, which is a dangerous material. And I feel like technology is going to move forward. If we say, no, we don't want this, you know, other solutions will be found. The other thing I want to start with, too, is that I was shocked to hear, and this hasn't come up yet, the size of this. I have this little thing that I got from, actually it was News 12. In 2018, the largest battery unit went online in East Hampton. It was the biggest one at the time, 2018. That is the same place that had the fire last week. And is, so now, 5 years later, it's caught on fire, and I'm not going to read this one, but it's in the Southampton Press right now. I'm
We've
sure
read it.
you've seen it. And
We've read
if you
it.
want copies, I have them for you. But you know, it's owned by partly by National Grid, and the last thing is National Grid spokesperson declined to comment. They just, you know, fire, no comment. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the size of this. So that was the largest one at the time. It was 5, what is it called,
5.
megawatts? Is it megawatts? The one that we're talking about, 0.5 miles from my house, in a residential area, is 100 megawatts.
Mhm.
I feel like this is going so fast. And the 5 megawatt one just went on fire. It doesn't make sense to me that we would move so quickly on this plan. I worry too about, someone mentioned, what do you do when it's spent? My children grew up in Buchanan by the nuclear power plant at Indian Point, and now they have all these spent rods, and they didn't really, you know, certainly the people that came in and talked to the planning board in Buchanan didn't say, oh, you know, they said, don't worry about that, we'll take care of it. You know, It's something that, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about doing good things for the environment. We need to think about the whole thing, not just right now, and let's get this going and let's move it ahead. I think it's just moving ahead way too fast. And on that, and I'll probably run out of time, but this moratorium of 6 months while we still plan it doesn't feel very encouraging to me. I feel like that's it's almost nothing. It's I really think this is this is what I think.
Right, not in a residential area. Okay, great.
Not in a residential area.
Thank you.
If I have a little more time, I want to read the abstract. I just did a quick Google search. I am not an expert about this, but I am a researcher. So this is the first thing that came up, which usually researchers, I'm embarrassed to say I took the first thing that came up. But this is not this is a disinterested party. It might be the same thing someone else mentioned, where it's hazard avoidance. I'm sorry, I should have that more clear. I'm done.
Yeah.
But can I leave you this?
Sure,
Can I leave this article
absolutely.
with you?
Just give it to Anthony. That'd be great. Thank you. So Roger Moores, followed by David Ulrich.
David has nothing to add.
Nothing to add, so I take you off, followed by Pat McKee. Great.
Just have an idea. We know.
So Roger first. Thank you.
Yes, hi, for the record, my name is Roger Moores, and I'm at 15 Bayview Avenue in Hampton Bays.
Bayview Avenue.
I'm next to Lori Verderci, so we're neighbors, same distance, obviously. I want to say thank you for letting me speak tonight. It is a privilege on this planet the way it is today. I just want to go for the record, I'm assuming this is not a done deal. Am I correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
For the record, thank you. My statements are just that we must embrace new technology, but when new technology exists, no track record exists. From the Southampton Town Press on May 1st, I quote some of the things that in New York State, 90% of electric storage systems are other styles or types. 10% are best situations or facilities. The 10 existing fires through history that have happened have been at these other 90% other type facilities. Not the best facility. They have no track record. They have no experience. They have nothing. You can check on the article for that. The biggest question I have for all of you, and this is, what are contingency plans? Meaning normally when everything goes on for any major adventure by anything, they have the beginning, the end, the middle, and what happens. So my questions are, in 2020, the U.S. Coast Guard had a contingency plan for population on ships. They had authorized that round-the-clock watchmen should be watching the boat at all times. This was not followed, and 34 sleeping divers perished. Question is, will firefighters be trained? We've had conversations tonight about firefighters. Will they be trained before the grand opening of this facility? Or, as Mr. Archer let us know, they'll be trained as needed. If the fire starts, we got to have some quick training, very quick. Also, this remote site is next to everything, and I won't repeat it because others have said that. How will those east of this site fare if something goes wrong? Question also, are there any expansion plans attached to this or consideration for the future? Is this the beginning and will it grow? Cooling water for this facility, where is it released? How does it affect? They've done things for Shoreham and other nuclear power plants as to when it's released, at what temperature, how it affects the wildlife. What about this? Does the Canal Southampton Battery Storage LLC have contingency plan for cleanup if needed, or do they go bankrupt with an LLC and we're left holding everything? I don't know, but it's a question to consider. Are we the guinea pigs? Remember, British Petroleum thought that foam was a great idea to stop oil leakage and contain it in the Gulf situation, the Gulf leak. It has now formed an enormous Dead Sea at the bottom of the Gulf that is still there today, and nobody's doing anything. Strict site location requirements by New York State are there for a reason. Mr. Archer has tried to allay fears on we meet all codes, we satisfy all requirements, so you can go ahead. My question is what are the variances that they've requested? Do 720 battery units fit on 4.9 acres? Too close to major arteries and homes, in my opinion, and others.
Okay. I think we've got the
Okay,
the
got the
points.
gist?
Yeah, we've got a big gist of it. We appreciate it.
I'll leave it with, a sunny day is safe and easy, but when the smoke moves in, what is our breathing contingency plan for us and our children?
Right, thanks.
Thank you.
We're experiencing it. Thank you. Okay. Pat McKee, followed by Gail Murcott.
My name is Patricia McKee, and I'm a former member of the Senior Executive Service for the U.S. Department of Education, where I worked for 33 years. I'm now retired to my family home of 70 years here in Hampton Bays. Along with many others in this room, this is my neighborhood that we're talking about. I live 500 yards from the proposed site. As others have said, this is a residential neighborhood. There are approximately 200 families that live in close proximity to the proposed site. It is not an industrial area. It's certainly not remote. It is also a prime recreation site for the Hamptons. We have the canal, the recently restored marina, Mashut Beach, and the popular Beach Hut. In addition to numerous questions about fire suppression plans, there are many other questions that need to be answered. Here are just a few. Number one, why is a moratorium being considered for the other two proposed best locations in Hampton Bays? I understand Supervisor Schneiderman maintained that this project was too far along in the process and that too much money had been invested. As you know, it's never too late. And how did this project get so far along in the process when others did not? Number two, what are the noise abatement plans? Berms and/or shrubbery are not an adequate answer to noise pollution of up to 85 decibels. Number three, what are the current decibel readings from Sunrise Highway at that location? Already neighbors complain about the noise from the highway, so when decibel levels are being considered, I hope the board will combine whatever is being, what already exists on from Sunrise Highway to what would be created from the best site. And number four, why has there been no environmental impact statement completed? Who made the decision that such a review was not needed? And number five, simply, what's the rush? In the past few months, while under the threat of a best site in the midst of our community, my neighbors have been in turmoil. Many, as you've heard, have been talking about putting their homes of many years up for sale, and we don't know where to turn for help. In its preamble, our U.S. Constitution addresses an important function of government to ensure domestic tranquility. Right now, there's no tranquility in my little peaceful neighborhood in Hampton Bays. A big part of domestic tranquility is having trust in government. If you please, members of the planning board, say no to this site. At least require a review of environmental impact. Please restore our trust and restore our tranquility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Gail Murcott, followed by Margaret Friedlander.
My name is Gail Marcotte. I live at 7 Bayview Avenue in Hampton Bays on the other side of the canal, 0.5 miles and 2 houses away from the proposed site. I'm not going to speak to all the dangers and everything else because I think you've got that from everyone else. What I would like to speak to is the fact that in Hampton Bays, I mean, I retired. My grandparents built here in 1932. I spent my whole life out here, other than going into work and coming back out. And I was looking forward to a quiet retirement. I find that I'm spending more time in this building than I am on the beach. The problem is that Hampton Bays seems to be the dumping grounds for everything. And I mean, besides the 3-story buildings, a road going through, traffic on the other side, a septic or something in the middle of town next to the cemetery, the Bel Air Motel. Every time I turn around, we have to be back here. I believe that this Best Plant is the absolute worst thing to happen to Hampton Bays. And I just want to say that I don't think that we should really have to come in here all the time asking the people who represent us to do what the town wants. I mean, I think all of you know, I think Jay Schneiderman knows, the majority of Hampton Bays, probably except 1 or 2 people who have an interest in it, don't want this. You know, maybe somewhere down the road when we know what it does, but at the Civic Association, the fire department showed up there, and they spoke to the Civic Association, and they had absolutely no idea, which is what he said, of how to put these fires out. He came purposely to speak to the Civic Association about that. So I'm not sure what fire department is, or person is approving it, but I have to believe what I heard from him with my own ears. I'm asking you to please listen to the people of Hampton Bays. We've had enough. We want to spend time at the beach. We want to make sure that you get home in time for dinner. And we don't have to constantly be in here fighting what's being dumped in Hampton Bays. We just want a nice, quiet community to retire and enjoy the rest of our lives.
Got it.
I thank you very much.
Thank you. Margaret Friedlander, followed by Matt Drozdov.
Good evening. Hello, everyone, and thank you for allowing this public hearing to continue to today. My name is Margaret Friedlander. I live in Hampton Bays since 1992. I have to check with my husband. I live in Cormorant Point. For full transparency, I'm also running for Southampton Town trustee. I'm going to first speak as a resident, and then because I am also chair of the Hampton Bays Citizens Advisory Committee, I'm going to read a letter. So I want to thank you all. Jackie, I was on a work session back in February and March of 2022, and I gave you guys, the board, the NYSERDA guidelines and model law. Up until that time, you had not seen it or weren't aware of it. I've also done a lot of research on this subject. I am very clear I'm not a subject matter expert. I made a PowerPoint presentation and spoke and presented it to the Civic Association. I, as an individual, as many others have stated, am not against the technology. I gave the context for BEST, the rationale for it, why it exists, net zero emissions, all of that. And then went into the justifiable concerns of the community, many which have stated. I have some information, and I won't go into the details about the difference between e-bikes and car batteries versus BEST batteries, but there are justifiable concerns and questions that everybody's aware of. I point the fault for me personally, the position that the planning board is in, because our town board allowed zoning, which I thought initially was only highway zoning, but it's now, I find out, residential, highway, and something else. And I find that unacceptable because they don't have the information that I had through my own efforts and research. So now, I'm sorry, I'll read it quickly. Reading this into the record, and I'll leave it for you. This is a letter to the Southampton Town Planning Board. It's copied to the town board as well, and the town clerk. So I'm reading for the Hampton Bays Citizen Advisory Committee comments concerning this Canal Southampton Best. At the regular meeting of the Hampton Bays Citizen Advisory Committee held on Thursday, May 18, 2023, the committee discussed grid-scale battery energy storage systems plan for Hampton Bays. Committee members discussed what is grid-scale BESS, the purpose of grid-scale BESS, and the justifiable concerns about the potential public safety and environmental hazards associated with this new and evolving technology. Some committee members attended the April 27, 2023 Planning Board public hearing about the Canal Southampton BESS, as did many other vocal Hampton Bays residents who are opposed to both grid-scale BESS subject site locations planned for Hampton Bays. The majority of members of the Hampton Bays CAC respectfully request the Southampton Town Planning Board ensure the Canal Southampton BESS is not approved at this time and potentially not approved at all, pending the resulting actions and outcomes of a minimum 6-month town board BESS moratorium. The current Canal Southampton BESS secret negative declaration seems to be a premature decision. It would seem reasonable for this board to rescind this negative declaration given, per our understanding, the planning board's self-acknowledged lack of information concerning the subject matter. It's our understanding the SECRA regulations impose a non-discretionary duty on a reviewing agency to rescind a negative declaration if new information becomes available, indicating that the proposed action may have a significant effect on the environment. And I quote where that's from. At any time prior to its decision to undertake, fund, or approve an action, a lead agency must rescind a negative declaration when substantial new information is discovered. We trust the planning board will rescind the negative declaration by acknowledging there is and will be ongoing new information concerning this technology and related public safety and environmental issues, thus the need and request for a moratorium. As stated in our letter to the Southampton Town Board, grid-scale battery energy storage systems go beyond the Southampton Town Planning Board's remit. There must be more transparent, conscientious governance regarding the zoning and selection of grid-scale BESS, subject site locations, and a detailed, comprehensive safety and emergency response plan. A plan which is informed and defined by best practices, subject matter experts, and all multidisciplinary authorities having jurisdictions from the town board, planning board, police, ambulance, fire, hospital, first responders, et al. And per the NYSERDA model law, which is advisory, the community impacted by these decisions should also have a seat at the table. It's our expectation and advisory position that the Southampton Town Board appoint a grid-scale battery energy storage task force committee. Thank you for your due diligence regarding this matter, and I know personally you guys have been asking a lot of good questions, and I know you're doing what you can do under the circumstances, so it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Give it to Anthony. So Matt Drozdoff,
Matt
followed
Drozdoff,
by
yes.
Josh Pulakis.
Okay, my name is Matt Drozdoff. I live at 81 Mana Drive, Hampton Bays. I've been a homeowner in Hampton Bays for 56 years, so this town is very important to me. I also have degrees in chemistry and can speak to some of the technical items. A few headlines. You know, we've all heard the police chief, the fire chief in Manhattan speak about the number of 200 small lithium fires that have started started major fires in apartment houses. One burned out a supermarket in the Bronx. He says the number of these has doubled in the last year. I think you're all aware of February 24th of this year when a Ford Explorer hit a Tesla in East Marion, killed 4 people. The fire started immediately and it took them 2 hours to put the fire out. A little more about fires and Teslas. To add to what the gentleman said earlier, there was a recent fire at a charging station in California of a Tesla. It took 25,000 gallons of water to put the fire out. You don't put a fire out. What you can hope to do is lower the temperature so the chemical reaction stops. It's like a thermite reaction. If you remembered it from your high school class where you take a piece of magnesium and ignite a mixture of iron oxide and aluminum powder. Once you start it, you can't turn it off. It's a chemical reaction, a chain reaction. It runs until it burns up the fuel. This is much the same. In Morris, Illinois, a year and a half ago, a lithium battery storage facility set on fire. 100,000 pounds of batteries went up. They had to evacuate the neighborhood. The fire chief, Steffes, S-T-E-F-F-E-S, said that they tried to fight the fire with water and had absolutely no luck. They had to evacuate the neighborhood, and they had a hard time putting the fire. It took forever to go out. In addition, what we haven't really talked about is the toxic gases that are given off. You're talking about an electrolyte that's organic in nature, not water. And when these are low viscosity organic chemicals, when they get hot, they burn. It adds to the problem. Now, when I'd like to talk with my last example. It comes out of the Journal of Loss Prevention in Process Industries, Volume 81, February of this year. It published a report on lithium-ion battery energy storage systems hazards. It talked about hazard mitigation and stuff. Let me read a little bit of this. I quote, "There have been an increase in the development and deployment of energy storage systems BESS in recent years, and particularly BESS using lithium-ion batteries have been prevalent, which is mainly due to their power density, and that's the big problem. Performance and economical aspects. BESS have been increasingly used in residential, commercial, industrial, and utility applications for peak shaving and grid support. As the number of installed systems is increasing, the industry has also been observing more field failures that result in fires and explosions. Lithium-ion batteries contain flammable electrolytes which can create unique hazards when the battery cells become compromised and enter a thermal runaway. Initial events sparked by a short circuit,
Excuse me, Mr. Drozdov,
overcharging.
can you just submit that to us so
I am
that you
gonna
don't have
submit
to
it to
read
you.
it? Yeah.
I am going to submit it to you. The example they point out is a Arizona Public Service company had a one container unit go up. They don't know why.
We're gonna
Not
have
30 units, not like we're talking
We're
here.
going to have to wrap it up.
Can you
Okay.
submit your rest of your comments to
Okay.
Anthony?
Anyway, quickly, what the report fails to showed is that there was a failure of battery cell thermal runaway caused by damage. Clean agent fire suppressant systems were incapable of stopping the thermal runaway. I'll go on. I got more, but I'll just
Right.
leave
Now,
you
just
with
submit
the.
submit the letter to us. I think that's valuable to us, Mr.
No, I'll leave you two
Drozdov.
things.
Yeah.
I'll
Leave us, just give
I'll leave you
them,
the full article, and here's the backup.
great. Just give them to Anthony, it'll be in the record. Thank you. So Josh Pulakis, followed by Robert Montgomery. Pass? Thank you very much. Followed by Emil Braun.
Okay. Hi, my name is Josh Palakis.
Yes.
My family owns and operates the Hampton Maid. We are right here on the map, very close to the proposed BESS facility. We have been running our business for 64 years here in Hampton Bays. This really has no place here. I see no benefit, nothing but problems. If there's a fire, we're all stuck on the South Fork. No one's escaping. Trains, roads, everything's gridlocked. We experienced it today when we had a fatality in East Quogue. All of the East End was locked up all morning long. Can you imagine if Sunrise and the train tracks are shut down as well? I commend all my previous speakers. Well done. You guys did great. Let's keep our community safe, healthy, and forget this project. This is ridiculous. Who has the common sense to even let it go this far?
Okay, thank you. Emil Braun, followed by Paul Bushman. Paul Bushman is here.
My name is
Yes,
Emil.
okay.
My name is Emil Braun. I live at 1188 Scuttle Hill Road in Watermill. I am not a neighbor to the site, but I am a resident for 15 years, 365 days a year of Watermill. And I travel 27 east and west. I am also commander of a disaster response team for a national nonprofit, and I travel all over the country dealing with natural disasters and unfortunately fires and things of that nature. This is the worst possible idea to put forward. About 30 years ago, we had a devastating fire out here. There were no lithium batteries involved, and it burned for weeks. I didn't live out here at the time. My family was out here. My wife and children were visiting, and they were stuck here for about a week. And
Pine
they couldn't,
Barrens.
and they
Pine
couldn't
Barrens
travel
fire.
west.
Yeah.
Just today, as was just mentioned, there was a simple tragic accident between Quogue and Hampton Bays, shut down everything. I had to cancel appointments where I had to travel west. I couldn't go. This is a really, really bad idea. Camp Hero might be a better location for this, away from everybody. But you can't put this on 27. You can't put it any place near 27 because we will be stuck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please turn this down.
Thank you. Paul Bushman, followed by Craig Mid Lonahan.
Yeah, I'm good. Everyone's been very comprehensive so far.
Okay, so I'm taking you off. Thanks. Then followed by Mary Connor?
Thomas Murray.
No, Mary,
Mary.
160 Lynn Avenue. Mary, Cunnelh? No?
They might be next door.
Okay, please.
Good evening. My name is Paul Bushman. I live at 32 Carter Road in Hampton Bays. I didn't have any remarks prepared. I wasn't prepared to come up and speak, but since I'm here and I'm given the opportunity, I thought I may as well go ahead and voice my concerns. I speak strongly with everybody who is in opposition of this project.
I'll pass.
And I speak
Thank you, Mary.
in the strongest terms against it. Somebody who mentioned before, I can't see, I can't fathom how it's gotten this far. To even consider putting a project as dangerous as this in a community surrounded by people. Do what you need to do. The thing is, projects like these always benefit a very, very minute amount of people while harming a great quantity. Please
Okay.
do the right thing.
Thank you. Dolores Riley, followed by Thomas. This is difficult.
Murray?
Yes,
Thomas
Murray.
Murray?
Yes, by Thomas Murray passes. Okay, so then it'll be followed by Liz Hook. Maybe Liz might be on Zoom. I'm not
No,
sure.
she's right here.
Oh, okay, good, great. So Dolores,
Hi,
please.
Dolores Riley. I live on South Valley Road in Hampton Bays, and I have a question and I have a comment. My question is, and I'm not trying to dump this on the people who live near the car wash, but I kind of forgot with all the things we've talked about on this subject. Over there on Montauk Highway, is there a substation there? But
It's not.
no. Is there a substation for us? Okay. If it were reversed, if they had a substation and we didn't have one over by North Road, I think this would not even be a discussion. We cannot be punished because we have a substation. Everything that people said, if that's your main reason or the company's main reason for wanting to do it there, it's not right, it's not fair. I'm, blessed to be not quite, I'm near the Hampton Maid Inn, so I'm not right on North Road, but it's pretty close to me. The noises that I hear with landscapers, helicopters, planes going overhead, I'm lucky I don't have much street noise that I hear, but from someone who has, ear issues, it's horrible. It's not good for your brain, it's not right, it's not healthy. But what the last gentleman who was sitting right by me, I have no idea what his name was, what he said about the horror that can be released in a residential area, and I know, like, what the other gentleman said about the traffic accident, and we can't get out. You can't go anywhere if you're in Hampton Bays. And the idea that we could potentially have a horrific burning out of control, it's not right. This is my retirement place. I bought the house a while ago, rented it out till I could afford to come here and retire. Now I'm here, now I'm retired. I don't want to go on fire, and I don't want to be smoked out. Like, the smoke from Canada is bad enough. But the first gentleman who spoke from the company, and I'm sorry, I do not remember what his name is, he said that he was going to talk about 3 concerns that we had: water pressure, fire issues, and noise. This, to me, you talk about glittering generalities. Okay, well, we've been talking to people about this, and we've talked to people about that. There's no facts. There's no whatever. The only fact I got tonight was how many decibels are out there. But the whole thing with the water pressure, every water sprinkler guy I've ever had, once I put water sprinklers in, I said, well, you have really bad water pressure here. I'm really not that far from North Road. And everybody around me has crappy water pressure. Sorry to use the word crappy. The fire thing, the fire marshal, I'm also a proud member of the Hampton Bays Civic Association. The fire marshal came in and spoke at one of our meetings. He seemed like, oh my God, he had no idea what would happen, how we would deal with this, what exactly was the threat. And there's all different things. Well, we don't use the same batteries as Tesla does, and we don't do this and we don't do that. It is unproven. It's completely unproven. And to say, okay, well, you can look at the East Hampton newspaper interview with the fire chief. No, I got to hear the fire marshal. He was freaked out enough to make me freaked out. I don't want to talk in glittering generalities. I want to know what the facts are. We talked about the noise, we talked about the fire, we talked about the water pressure. All I can say is, I guess tomorrow I'll go to the town board and say, how do we go about protesting this? Because really, with COVID and with everything else, I feel like somebody walked this in the side door. It is too important. You are talking about our lives, our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hook. I live at 4 Baywoods Drive in Hampton Bays, and Patty read my letter, so I could get to make some additional comments without taking too much time. I'm going to be very brief. I did some research before I came here, and I found that there are, as of January, I think, there were only 4 or 5 communities in Long Island that approved best facilities, approved zoning, best facilities for various zoning. And the town of Southampton is the only one that has approved facilities of this size in residential areas. And there's a reason for that. All of the other communities recognize that what they call a tier 3, which is 600 volts and over, is a massive facility, does not belong in a residential neighborhood. I understand that that is not your province, but I want you to take that into consideration when you're looking at the special exception issue here, because this is not an automatic go-ahead. This is special exception. Have we really looked at the recreational impact? This is a recreational place. There's architectural, historical. There's so many potential environmental impacts that I'm an attorney, and I had started my practice as an environmental lawyer. Frankly, my understanding is a negative declaration means that there are no potential significant environmental impacts. I don't understand how a negative declaration applies here, because all it does is the EAF identifies significant environmental impacts. Once identified, then you go to an EIS, where you talk about how to mitigate them. That step never happened here. Considering the fact that you are asking for the moratorium, it's incompatible to me to allow this facility to go forward with a negative declaration, hearing everything that we're hearing from everybody. We're talking about noxious vapors, we're talking about contamination of air and water.
runaway thermal fires, the football field. So if you're sitting at one end of the football field and there's a runaway thermal fire on the other end, are you going to feel safe enough to stay there? I mean, that's what it is. It's 300 feet away from a potential thermal runaway fire. Do you want to be in that house? I don't. In the last meeting, somebody on the planning board said, are we talking about bananas and pears here? These are not e-bikes, these are not car batteries. All of the information we have been providing to you is not about e-bikes and car batteries. It's about BESS facilities. It's specifically about these. California had a disaster. Arizona had a disaster. South Korea's had 27 disasters. This is not proven technology. We don't know what could happen. And as we talked about, how are we going to evacuate people? If this small fire in East Hampton closed down our major arteries, the railroad, the road, what would happen here? We couldn't get out. We couldn't get away. And I guess that's it. Everybody else has spoken eloquently about
Great.
everything
So
else.
did- and so did you. Thank you. I have one more speaker before we go to Zoom. Do we have people on Zoom?
We have 3 people.
You have 3 people on Zoom
For this hearing or just in general?
for this application.
That's in general.
How many for this? Ask them to raise their hands in Zoom if they want to speak on
If
this
they want to speak
application.
on this application, yeah, I have you next, Ray. Come up, Ray, you're next.
No one raised their hand.
Okay, so you're closing it out.
I'm a little disheveled here. I have a good excuse. My daughter's getting married next Saturday, and she's texting me constantly. Oh.
Okay.
First of all, this is a fire that I did a
Ray, can you
report.
introduce yourself
You
for the
need to-
record?
This is a fire I did a report on. I thought maybe you guys want to take
Your name?
Give us your name for the
Bonnie,
record
Bonnie,
and
we
your
have you.
address.
We have you.
My name is Ray D'Angelo, Hampton Bays, New York. Okay?
Bonnie Doyle, you have.
Can I give you these photos? You want to look at them, or?
Sure.
This is
I'll pass it
Indian Island, and this is the golf carts. And this really sort of like shows thermal runaway. Every cart, they were there 2 days putting that fire out, by the way. I just want to go over something that was said about this article in the paper that reviewed what the fire chief said, and was also the head of the water district. And one of the things that I find very troubling, it says here that in addition, that the applicant proposes the installation of a fire hydrant, well, that's not a problem, but plus the construction of a special standpipe, which would be a dry standpipe, in the Shinnecock Canal to allow firefighters to draw water. That's called drafting. In the event of a disaster, we would have endless supply of water if we need be. And that's Mr. Kappas is saying that, who is head of the water district and also the fire department. Now, the problem with that is, and I have a report here, that what is in the canal? It's salt water. Salt water is the last thing you want to put on this fire. The Coast Guard doesn't recommend it. The COSA doesn't recommend it. Also, the NHTSA, residual salt within the battery or battery components can form a conductive bridge within the battery that can lead to a short circuit and self-heating of the battery, resulting in fires. So the salt water, this shows me that they don't know what they're talking about. They're really not familiar with this. None of these people have been to one of these fires. It's a nascent industry with new technology, and these good people, and I commend you all for coming out tonight, they shouldn't be guinea pigs for this thing. That's basically what we're asking them to do. One of these fires, I mean, just yesterday we had that smoke condition from a fire 900 miles away. What do you think is going to happen? The fire that we're going to have, they recommend everybody get SCOT up. Those are self-contained breathing apparatus. And the positive pressure, so you can't even inhale any byproducts of the combustion. These people are going to be out there without anything. If there's a really good job, they're going to have to get out of here. Their houses are going to get contaminated. It's a nightmare, really. And I think it's really the most troubling situation we have here now, that we have to come up here and endure this thing to fight for our safety. It's really, really very troubling. So I'm just going to close out with this, is that when you leave here tonight, you have to say to yourself, well, would I want my family to be within 600 feet of this thing? And if you do, like your loved ones, then I guess you're okay, you can vote for it. But if not, you know what you have to do. And I respect all of you, and I think that you really, number one concern is the safety of the residents of this community, and you're going to vote the right way and either defer this thing or cancel it entirely. I wrote about this a year ago. I understand the technology. I'm not a climate change denier, but it's the wrong place for this thing. And we have to protect these good people. That's what your job is. That's what the job of a government is. The first job is the safety of its residents. So I hope that you will take your duty and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Doyle, our last speaker.
Good evening, Chairperson LaFaro and the remainder of the planning board.
Bonnie, you have to speak up.
Good evening, Chairperson and the remainder of the planning board. My name is Bonnie Doyle. I live at 8 Lawrence Avenue in Hampton Bays, and I am 300 feet from this location in question tonight. I want to thank everybody in the audience who did a lot of research and presented a lot of very pertinent information. And I know you folks have been here since 2 o'clock, so that's an awful lot to absorb, and I appreciate your energy and your time and effort as well. And as I speak, I'm going to speak tonight only to the noise issue. There are obviously many, many others, and they've been alluded to all night. But also just keep in mind that this is a very densely populated neighborhood. I live on less than a quarter of an acre. Many of my neighbors along my streets do as well. And I invite any of you to come. I'll give you a tour of the neighborhood so you can see that for yourself. It's packed. I wanted to point out the guidelines that have been put forth by the EPA and the World Health Organization with regard to noise, which is my primary concern. 30 decibels is recommended for sleeping. Extended exposure of anything exceeding 55 to 60 decibels is disturbing. Noise needs to be below 70 decibels to prevent induced hearing loss. 70 decibels is similar to a vacuum cleaner and a toilet flush. This is loud. And I did some very, very quick Googling, which we know the internet is filled with all kinds of misinformation. However, the conventional wisdom that I've read said that this could potentially provide 85 decibels. This is beyond what my ears care to hear. I unfortunately do not have any information from the foreign entity Canal Southampton Battery Storage, LLC, that projects the potential noise level. Nothing solid, nothing that is really based on information that comes from other areas where they have a project of this magnitude and size. 85 decibels is insane. The source of the noise is threefold. You got a cooling system with noise emitted from the outlet and inlet airflow vents and pumps from each of the 30 enclosures. Air cooling fans from inverters producing a buzzing sound, and transformers that have fans mounted on the outside of them. Clearly, vegetation, as suggested, will not provide relief to the given number of residents in this area. I need to be assured that this project will not exceed 30 decibels because I like to sleep. I'm aware that this project needs an operational noise survey by a company that does this type of work. A study that can project the noise should be completed in the design phase, and I have no idea if this exists. If it does, please share it with the community. An operational noise survey must be completed that assesses the tonality, impulsivity, and noise distinctive from the residential acoustics. And speaking of the residential area, which already is tortured with noise from my perspective, I'm just going to tell you a couple of things that happen on a regular basis where I live. Noise from Montauk Highway. I was sitting out on my deck on Tuesday. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And there were 58 decibels of noise. I'm just sitting on my deck. This is from Montauk Highway and North Road, which is very close to me as well. Helicopters. that we know no longer follow the prescribed route are now back in our neighborhood going over the Shinnecock Canal over my home. The Dream Dance Club, which promotes a very loud sound system, functions from midnight to 4. This has been going on for decades and cannot be resolved by this community, by this town. I don't know why. The Tiki Bar at Michoud Beach, loud dance music, it's fine. They're over by 10. I'm happy everybody's having a good time. And personally, I have a neighbor that installed an air cooling and heating system, and there's a compressor 20 feet from my bedroom, which is the allowed space. I really can't sleep with it. I have all my windows closed. I have sound machines on. I've got listening to tapes to try and it's a nightmare. So I know what kind of noise this is, and it's very disturbing. And lastly, I have grave concerns about the value of my property. I have been in my home with my family since 1968. This is my home, and I am so freaked out about this that I'm ready to pack up and leave. But I'm thinking, who's going to buy this home when they hear this kind of noise going on? Nobody. I mean, to say nothing of all of the other very scary things that have been mentioned tonight. The noise is a problem. So given what I've said, I respectfully ask that a moratorium be put in place and that the proper environmental impact be assessed. That's my thing. Please, I know, be kind to us, be kind to my ears and all of my neighbors. I want to sleep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, but there is a guy that is on Zoom and he's.
Oh, he is on Zoom?
Yeah, we're gonna go to
Okay.
Zoom now.
But I was
We're going to
told
Zoom
no
now.
one was on Zoom.
They said there was nobody.
He said no one was on Zoom.
Oh, no one's on
Yes,
Zoom?
his name is Tom Guinan and he wants to speak.
So can you let Tom Guinan in, please? So while we're waiting, all your letters, all your comments, all your reports, please send to us. They are read by everyone. Okay. Mr. Guinan?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Tom Guinan. I'm a homeowner in Hampton Bays, 2 Shinnecock Place, just across the canal from the proposed site. Okay. I've only been aware of this issue for probably like 2 weeks. Various people in the neighborhood have brought it up to me and, asked me if I could help. I went back, just to get up to speed, I went back to the meeting on 27 April and watched the video of that meeting for an hour and a half. And, I'm familiar with the technology. I'm a engineer, retired engineer who worked for the Navy for 40 years. I was the technical warrant holder for the SubSafe program, which was a safety program for submarines. So in listening to the meeting, it was a lot of information. I found it overwhelming, okay, because all of the technical agents for the applicant were presenting a lot of info, meeting standards, NFPA, Underwriters Lab, so I'm familiar with it. And then I'm, thinking to myself, how is the board taking all this information in? I felt like if I was at that meeting, well, I had so many questions that we would probably be there for another 2 or 3 hours if I was in the room with you, okay? So I sympathize with the board. On one hand, you have the applicant's technical agents who are, presenting all this information, it's all good. And then, referencing all these standards. And then on the other hand, you have this community that is freaked out, okay? They're concerned, they're scared, all right? Because it's a high-risk technology, all right? So All I can talk to you about is my background on safety programs and what goes into high-risk technologies, which includes lithium batteries, all right? You know, I'm not an expert on lithium batteries, but I'm I'm familiar with the technology and the consequences of the failure, because the Navy uses many of these batteries for shipboard and shore-based applications. We've had a lot of experiences with lithium battery mishaps, where we've had hundreds of millions of dollars of property damage and Navy asset damage that we've lost because of lithium battery fires, all right? So the Navy is a very safety conscious organization because of the advanced technologies we use and the environments we operate in. But there are certain safety programs that are given special emphasis, you know, something above the standard safety practices because of their extreme danger to personnel, platforms, and facilities. These programs include SubSafe, which I was the technical warrant holder for, nuclear propulsion, weapons system safety, and lithium battery safety. All right? The Navy considers lithium batteries a safety hazard equivalent to all these other high-risk technologies. All right? Shore-based filled facilities where lithium batteries are used are in remote industrial sites with the requisite operational, maintenance, storage, transportation, and damage control capabilities. From my experience, the Navy does not put lithium batteries anywhere near residential communities. The current recommended location for the BESS system is totally inappropriate. There has to be a more suitable and safe site on eastern Long Island where this facility can be located. All right? I have forwarded to the panel the Navy lithium battery safety program instruction, all right, that goes into details about what we do to ensure safety use of lithium batteries. So I would recommend you forward that to the applicant's technical agents and ask them, you know, how do they comply with, you know, similar requirements to what the Navy requires. I'd be interested in seeing their response. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. Okay,
Hi, I also was hoping for an opportunity, but I didn't get to sign up.
okay.
I promise I'll be brief because I ride my bike from Hampton Bays to Southampton, and I specifically don't have an e-bike because I don't think that the technology is safe enough to have a lithium battery in my home.
And your name, please?
I'm Vanessa, full name?
Full name, please.
Rojano, Rojano. I live on Victoria Road. I'm actually really excited. I only moved to Hampton Bays in 2019. I love telling people that I live just east of the canal. Again, I'll be brief. I only learned about this from a flyer I found in my mailbox. So one, I wanted to thank whoever it was that put that there, and two, to remind you, don't tamper with federal property. You should leave it under the doormat next time. But there were so many excellent points made tonight in regards to safety, in regards to noise. But I did have a question for the board. You said earlier it was asked if a decision would be made tonight, and you said no, but I was hoping, could you answer when a decision might be made?
It's hard to say.
Hard to say, we're looking for more
Very
information.
early in the review.
Yeah.
And also considering that, again, I only learned about this through a flyer in my mailbox, what mode would be best for me to look for an answer when the board does have an answer on how they're going to decide on this particular issue?
Website?
I don't, and is this stuff up on the website?
What's that?
In terms of the public hearing, like if it was either, the public hearing was closed and they were going to render a decision, is there an agenda on the website if they were going to adjourn the public hearing with the next hearing be on the
I
website?
don't believe so. I believe the agenda's posted on the website for this meeting. Beyond that, I don't think anything that occurs.
I think you can
Here
ask your
will be
neighbors
there.
or
You
ask
keep
Ham-
track of the
Ha-
agenda.
Hampton-Bay
You see
Civic.
this app-
The
yeah.
Civic
They're gonna,
Association.
they're gonna track it.
Dolores, I think, is on it too. Hey, Dolores. Ballet? Okay.
Okay.
But I think that was pretty much my only question. And then the other statement that I wanted to make was that it's never too late to do the right thing. It doesn't sound like it would be safe to keep something that would benefit all of Southampton. Again, earlier it was asked, was this battery situation going to benefit just our neighborhood, or would it benefit any other neighborhoods outside of the one in Hampton Bays? And it was answered that no, there's no specific location that this would benefit. And if that's the case, then maybe we should find a more safe location for this storage unit. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. We've been at it for 2 hours and really appreciate your input, there's no doubt. If the applicant doesn't want to speak again, or we'd like to,
Schedule another hearing. Keep it open.
yeah, of course, I know, yeah.
We should say that we're going to adjourn this so we can speak at the next time.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And that is, I can base what I'm going to say now based upon what you're going to do in terms of, with this, I'm sorry. What I do now is really going to be based upon what the board does
Mhm.
in terms of how you're going to proceed
Right.
after tonight. I have some minimal remarks that I need to make, but I'd like to know how the board is proposing to proceed.
So it looks like we still need information
Okay.
and reports on fire and water and emergency. These are reports that are critical pieces of information to this board. So we will leave this hearing open so that we can continue to discuss the application. And so I need to make a motion to that, unless you want to make some comments before.
I want to make one comment because there was a comment made that the neg deck should be rescinded because there were impacts that weren't studied. So I think, I'm not going to lecture, I think you know how CEQA works. And that
Yes, we
is,
do.
you have to review all
Yes.
potential significant, and they were reviewed, and there were no, somebody goes back and looks at the expanded environmental assessment, and also all of the responses that we're giving at the, I think it's the sixth time that we're here, that all of the impacts were discussed. They were discussed in the documents that were submitted. They were discussed at the hearing, so that there isn't any basis as a matter of law to rescind the negative declaration. So I think I just wanted to add that for the record. And somebody had mentioned something about variances, and I think we all know that there's no zoning variances being requested.
Correct.
By this application.
Correct.
And there was one other comment about training, and maybe it's my fault, because I said there would be training as required. That's as required by the fire department. In other words, whatever's needed would be given. So I don't want to be misconstrued in that respect, that we're making that decision. We're not. Our client would be providing it. So there's a lot that's been said. I'm sorry?
No,
Oh.
I was anticipating Ray.
No. So.
Ray, you gotta
No,
wait.
listen, Ray, we're at the end of this.
We could talk about it.
Yeah, so.
Calmly.
If you're finished, Mr. Archer, I'd like to poll the board for a vote to keep this open.
For how long?
Keep the hearing open. We need to get information.
It's going to be productive also if you take the comments you've heard this evening and craft a formal response. Maybe bulleting out the comments or combining the comments and providing this board and the public record with a response.
Like you do in an FEIS, you mean?
Yeah.
Well.
So listen to the hearing. I mean, we made notes, but I think this is a very good idea, so we get a compact report from you. 'cause
There are
it's a-
other people who may want to be be heard tonight.
Right.
Also, we have the Zoom option. A lot of people may not be aware, you can, saw one speaker, other speakers can log in. You can be in California and enter comments via Zoom. If you don't know how to use it, find a 12-year-old iPhone.
Find a kid.
Right. So, may I have a motion to
I'll
keep
move
this
to
open?
keep it open for 30 days, July. What's our
No,
first?
no, just keep it open.
Keep it open?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no leave it open.
What's our
Just
first
leave it
meeting in
open.
July?
I don't think she wants to do a date.
I don't want
She
to.
just wants to
not
leave it
date.
open, so we're gonna leave it
Oh,
open.
okay, sorry.
There's a lot of information that we need before we can be responsive.
He's gonna keep it open.
So Dennis
So the
made the
motion is to
motion.
adjourn
Second.
this hearing for a future date.
Right, and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent. We didn't put a date specific.
It'll be
Mr.
noted.
We need to
Archer,
get, okay?
I think it's important for you to know when the board is asking for comments from the water district and from the fire department,
get it.
that we expect that back in writing, and it's a matter of the record.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Please leave the room orderly. There's other hearings.
Yes.
I know that. Give us some credit, Ray.
Ray, you could submit anything to the record, okay?
Great. He has the candy bowl down. That's nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
I just came back from Sicily. Sicilia. Siciliano.
No, I never. I have, this is terrible.
Formerly the town transportation director, so the weaknesses in our transportation system are very
Why not? You got the name.
Absolutely.
So I think for sure we've got a lot of questions
That's
to
the
ask.
problem. Hurricanes, all kinds of issues.
We need information. We need new information. They do. Okay, we have other applications to move forward, so please just take your comments into the hall. Thank you.
Stay just for the fun.
You know that one they had for breakfast just for
So you're diving into
Sugar
that
always
thing,
helps.
right?
Oh my God.
So did we do anything?
We did one.
Okay, so we're moving, please, thank you. We're moving on to item number 2 on the agenda,
Just back away from the mic a little bit.
200
Jackie,
North McGee Street.
Back away from the mic a little bit.
It's less understood.
200 North McGee Street. Do we have,
Yes, Madam Chair, we do.
okay, please, everyone,
Folks, if you can take your conversations outside.
please,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sorry I had to go that voice there.
Now, who is reading this into the record? Number 2, Craig, yeah. Just let us read it into the record.
Okay. Did you ask Christine if we had notice?
We do have notice.
Okay. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held at Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled 200 North McGee Street. The final application consists of 2 lots standard plan, where proposed Lot 1 is to contain 40,687 square feet and is to contain the existing dwelling, a pool, garage, and other accessory structures. And proposed Lot 2 is a flag lot, is to contain 43,580 square feet and is to contain the existing accessory structure, which is proposed to be converted into a single-family home located within the R40 zoning district and within the New York State archaeologically sensitive area, situated at 200 North McGee Street within the hamlet of Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-129-2-17-1.
Hi, Elizabeth Roy, owner and applicant of 200 North McGee Street.
kind of a tough act to follow, or maybe easy, depends how you look at it. This is for a final minor subdivision, turning one lot into 2 lots. We have proceeded through all of the recommendations of the Town Planning Board from the pre-application. We performed an archaeological survey. We received the required variances to be able to contain the entire subdivision on the lot with no reliance on neighboring properties. We updated the C of O to properly reflect the buildings on the premises. That's it. Pretty short and sweet.
Let us just get the map up there.
Yeah, he's looking at it.
Well, I'm gonna go aerial.
No lithium batteries on the property to speak of?
I mean, you know, couple, but pretty minor. Yeah, we purchased the property approximately 3 years ago and really have done a lot to improve it, planting a lot of things, improvements. You know, this subdivision lot has taken a lot of time and energy. Hopefully it, you know, kind of meets with everyone's standards, and we can get through it quickly at this point.
And it's in the archaeological sensitive area, so you have to do it.
It is. We did perform that report and it did come back clean.
Okay,
And that was provided to Anthony.
okay. Any questions on the board? We do have a couple of people who want to speak to this.
Anthony, can you zoom in a little bit?
No, these lines are always skewed on our GIS, so, you know, be aware of that.
Is it 3 lots?
2 lots.
2 lots.
2 lots. Well, it will be.
Front and the flag lot in back.
Okay.
Okay. Eileen Powers?
Thank you. My name is Eileen Powers. I'm an attorney for Emily Soltani. My office is 456 Griffin Avenue, Riverhead. Emily, I would like to say, is the neighboring property owner. However, this application proposes to use a portion of Emily's property in the subdivision. I'm not sure why, in the course of 2 years, this hasn't been amended to reflect that Emily has not consented to the use of her property. When the application first came forward and Emily voiced her objection to the town and to the applicant, instead of amending it, the applicant sued Emily in New York State Supreme Court. And I filed an answer on behalf of Emily back in August of 2021. So we're coming up on 2 years. And since that day, the applicant has done absolutely nothing to prosecute her case in Supreme Court. At some point, she either fired her attorney or her attorneys fired her. She's been operating without an attorney, not possible, in state Supreme Court since the property is owned in the corporate name Skyhampton. So she needed an attorney. Emily has been paying me to try to move this and resolve it. In the meantime, you're having a public hearing on an application that involves Emily's property without Emily's permission. So there is this driveway. We've tried to work something out with them, but you can see that the driveway here is in green, this proposed, and Emily is the owner of part of that.
Of that driveway?
Right, so we don't, obviously the applicant, the lawsuit, she claimed a prescriptive easement over the property. It's our position that they cannot win on that. Even if they were able to prove that prescriptive easement, it wouldn't extend to a new lot being created by this board. You wouldn't be able to burden it. So they've done nothing to prosecute that case in Supreme Court, and yet she comes here and continues with an application. And I was certain maybe that my client was wrong or I was wrong, that they had changed something, but I checked with Anthony before the hearing, and apparently this is the same, right?
That is the plan.
Yeah, they're still proposing to use Emily's driveway.
What
So-
does the survey say, Eileen? What did
Oh,
they-
no, there's no question that Emily owns it. The question is whether they would gain some right by using it over the years, somebody,
That's the
some prior
prescriptive,
owner.
yeah.
Right. Our position, obviously, is that any use of that property was done with permission, and that there was no claim of right by the neighboring property owner, either the current one or the prior one. So But at any rate, you have an application that involves property where the property owner doesn't consent to its use. Now, if she were to, she has suggested to me in conversations, that's, when I say she, I mean Elizabeth Roy, that she's gonna move that driveway entirely onto her own property and create a flag lot that goes to the new proposed lot in the back. Obviously, that doesn't involve, if that didn't involve Emily's property, we wouldn't have the same objection to it. However, it would have a significant impact on Emily's property to have a flag lot, a driveway that runs the entire length of her property, including her backyard. So even if the applicant were to amend this to move the driveway onto her own property, we would be asking the board to impose a condition that she either fence it off or put some screening there so that there is not a driveway running the entire length of Emily's property, including the backyard.
What are all those trees, Arlene? Are they on your
It's
client's?
off-centered, though.
Your client's land, or?
I don't know, I have that.
It's hard to
around.
tell.
It's hard,
Anthony,
yeah,
can
the
you-
lines don't line up.
Yeah.
They don't line up. It's hard
They
to
do not line up. We've been trying to get to the bottom of this forever. My clients had the property surveyed, though, and this driveway includes
on-
my client's property. I don't think there's any question. You can ask the applicant.
Yeah.
I think she
Complete.
acknowledges that it's on my client's property.
Mm-hmm.
How she comes up here and just stands in front of you and makes an application and continues with it when it's on my client's property is just beyond me. So she has done nothing in 2 years to prosecute that case in Supreme Court. Her attorney submitted a settlement agreement. She has a new attorney, or a different attorney. And I was not acceptable to us. It was basically, I'll discontinue my lawsuit and you come in and consent to everything. And we each use our own driveway. No further discussion about anything. I don't think she has a right to discontinue the lawsuit without our consent because there's a lot of legal fees involved. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you have, or maybe we can get a response from the
Counselor, do you have
applicant.
any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I
Thank you for
appreciate
being
it.
on the record, yeah. Yeah, if you,
Wow. That's a little bit shocking. So we have, Ms. Powers has tried to approach us to eliminate the lawsuit. We have fully moved the driveway onto our property at the recommendation of the town planners, originally Matthew Charters, and then following with Anthony Trezza. There's no part of the driveway that at this point is on the neighbor's property. This is why we got the variance, to make sure we were able to put the full 20 feet on our side of the property. So I'm not sure where that comes from, because this is the property line, and if we look at the map on the screen, so unfortunately, the result of this dialogue with the neighbor has been that those mature trees that provided a privacy screen between our houses had to be taken down, because in response to the neighbor's complaints about using the prescriptive easement / common driveway, we put up a fence along the property line now. This is where the surveyor indicated that the property line fell. So there's no ability at this point in time for us to use their driveway, for them to use our driveway. It has been decided at this point in time at their request. At the time, it was better to do a common driveway easement so we could preserve the mature trees lining it, but they were right in the middle, so we had to take them down. And now there is a fence between the two properties. So it's unclear to me. Now, Ms. Powers has wanted us to drop the litigation. We're happy to do that. We said, let's settle this. There's no reason to continue this. We don't need any part of your driveway any longer. She has been back and forth with counsel. It's the original law firm. So again, unclear to me why she's discussing. It's the same Greenberg Traurig law firm that represented me all the way through. And they had a discussion this week. A revised draft from Ms. Powers came to us this week. So it's a little bit unclear what's going on here in the background, other than throwing up a lot of smoke and mirrors to try to prevent this subdivision from going forward, which is, it's an R40 zone. I'm doing the right thing. They requested not to use their driveway. They did not want to provide a common easement. We did not want to continue on with the litigation. So we are doing the right thing here and not involving their property whatsoever. At their request, we put up a fence in between their properties.
Are you saying, is your testimony that the fence is only on your property and doesn't include any of the property that is in fact contested by both parties?
That is 100% true.
Okay.
And it has been determined by the surveyor. We had enforcement come through and take a look at it. The surveyor put the pink markers where the fence should be, and it was put on our side of those pink markers.
So you have a survey that supports that?
Absolutely.
Ms.
And
Powers,
Anthony, we have that.
are you in agreement with that?
No.
Is-
I don't know what she's talking about, there's only a fence at the entrance.
You have to come up.
You have to come up.
There is only a fence at the entrance of the driveway for, I don't know, I haven't been to the property myself, but it's described by my clients as, I think it's like 8 or 15 feet long.
It's 150 feet long.
Okay.
I've
It's a-
actually seen it.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know how far down the property it goes, I know it doesn't go the entire length of the property. My problem is, I don't see I don't see a change in the application that reflects that. I specifically asked Anthony today if she had actually changed the application, so I could get to the bottom of it. But the idea that somehow, first of all, I spoke to Brian Doyle earlier today. He has not heard from the client, and he did not get back to me. They sent a proposed settlement agreement to me that basically said, you can't object in front of the planning board, the zoning board, the whatever, and we'll withdraw our lawsuit against you. That was the extent of it. Wouldn't allow us to address our concern about even if she moved it onto her own property, about the fact that she was proposing a flag lot to access another lot the entire length of my client's property, including what is currently their backyard. So obviously, and let me just say, the lawsuit, when she started it, she was represented by David Gilmartin at Farrell Fritz. David was adamant when he left Farrell Fritz and joined Greenberg Traurig that he no longer represented her. I pointed out that the Supreme Court disagreed, and he said it was a mistake at the Supreme Court, et cetera. There was a consent to change attorneys filed where Ms. Roy signed it and said she was going to represent herself. Until last week, that's how things stood. Last week, I got a call from Whitey, from Brian Doyle, who was also at Greenberg Traurig, telling me that he was going to try to resolve this for us. But as of this afternoon, it's been days since they had my proposed settlement agreement. I've heard nothing from them, so. That's where we stand, so I don't think there's any shock. I was relying on your planner with respect to the fact that she didn't change the location of the driveway. It doesn't look changed to me on this map, but, you know.
Anthony,
I'll have to take
Yeah.
a closer look. I
Yeah.
took this over from Matt. This was not very nicely outlined in the pre-application report.
Yeah, it doesn't really say.
Okay,
So we're
great.
happy if she has moved the driveway
Okay.
off of our property, but it doesn't change the fact that she's gonna now put I don't know how many hundreds of feet long driveway all the way along my client's, literally on the property line. And so we would like some kind of screening.
Just for clarity,
Sure.
you were saying before if there was a fence along there or
Right.
some other kind of screening, that would be fine.
That would be great,
Is the
yeah, but there's
fence
only,
that's
it's only a little
there
fence at the
enough?
beginning of the property. It doesn't go to the back where the second lot is.
Part of the code, though, like you can't have a high fence in the beginning of the property.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the beginning of the property, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
Right.
the rear of the flag lot. The entire length should be screened, so it doesn't have to be a
So,
fence.
absolutely.
But some kind of screening so that
Absolutely.
my clients, they have
Yeah.
young children, so that there's some barrier there, that's all, if you're gonna create a new lot. So,
Okay,
Point
thank
out
you.
where the fence is on the
No, I want a survey. I gotta see it on a survey.
We have to see
Yeah, it
it on
sounds
a
like you-
survey, so if you have a new survey
Yeah,
that's,
can I also?
you have to
You
go
gotta
up to
come
the
up.
podium for recording.
So I'm just gonna point out, the fence goes to about here. So the house, the neighbor's house is here. So there's a complete privacy, and then from here up is high vegetation, so it's a higher level and it's full of forest. So there is nothing, there's not a habitable area in this part. So the fence covers all of that and provides a proper screen between the two
But
houses.
that's her property. I mean, the wooded area is on her property.
Correct.
But I mean, perhaps there needs to be some buffering there, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
And then furthermore, with regard to the moving of the driveway, so originally the proposal contemplated a common driveway easement, which is this curvature here. That was the original plan. But when the common easement was not accepted and we moved away from this concept, it moved down directly to the property line. That is the property line. So at this point in time, there is no encumbrance on any neighboring property with the driveway or any other portion of this project.
okay. Okay, well, we'll look at some details on it. I have someone else who needs to speak, Mark Evans?
Oh, yeah,
No, okay. Any questions from the board?
I think we
We
need
should
to-
leave
yeah.
this open.
We
to-
need to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah,
Ms.
yeah.
Powers, if you could submit something more formal
Yeah.
in writing.
Yeah. And if you have a survey, a separate survey from your client, that would be helpful too.
Me?
Yeah, if you.
we might, yes. We just had a survey.
And then you have a survey too, an
You have a
updated
recent
survey.
correct.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Do you have a survey?
I have it with me, it's right there, it hasn't changed. I mean, the property, continues to have the driveway on our side and the fence.
Well,
We have
Anthony
to
will
get-
look at it.
We have to get this.
We'll have to look back at previous
It's gotta be
submissions
resolved.
and.
Yeah, because
Yes,
once we
has to
close
be
this hearing, the
resolved.
clock starts.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're leaving the hearing open. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Motion by Dennis, second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, both. Meadowview Covenant Amendment. Do we have notice?
We do.
We do, and
We do,
who is
Chair.
reading number 3? Dennis.
Mr. Free, ready to go?
Yep.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, via video conferencing to consider the covenant amendment application entitled Meadowview Ag Reserve. The application is a request for a covenant amendment for the relocation of a building envelope for agricultural structures within the ag easement associated with the subdivision map Meadowview located at 8467 Pondstown Road within the hamlet of Bridgehampton, tax map 979-2-13.18.
Good evening, members of the board. John Bennett and Reed, and Mike Shano from InterScience is here with me. Hopefully, he's handed out, Mike, you've handed out some of the handouts. Very quickly, obviously, this is the purposes for public input, but the board will hopefully remember that this is an amendment to a covenant which would allow a repositioning of the area allowed for agricultural structures and buildings in the property. Essentially, there's a indoor riding arena now, and the idea is to move the area for allowed uses generally to the east,
Oh, yeah.
sort of
We've seen
extrude
this.
out that area so that the indoor can be connected to stables. The property is an active horse farm. The portion of the ag reserve that is proposed to be shifted would be identical in square footage, but would allow for additional facilities by the applicant. The existing indoor remain to the north. It maintains pre-existing non-conforming setbacks, which we can extend along. However, we can't move it anywhere else because since those areas were designated on the map, the town has increased the setback for housing of animals, so to speak, from 100 to 200. But we can extend along that pre-existing non-conforming setback. So that's where it makes the most sense and where it only can go. We did, in response to the mailing, our office did receive phone calls from several neighboring property owners, including Natalie Jones, Aaliyah Lee Kong, James Follow, Rhonda Smith, Jennifer Jablu, and none of the individuals that our office spoke to had any objection. They may be on Zoom and have rethought it, but we didn't hear any objections from them. I did speak to a Mr. Ferguson. He may be here, he may be on Zoom. He was concerned about, he lives on the Watermill. He lives on 7, where are we? Yeah, he lives on Watermill Town, and he was concerned about lighting and a spotlight being shining to his property to the east, and I told him, if he's not, he left, but maybe he's on Zoom, I told him that he should direct that concern to the board, and we would have no problem with any conditions that would prohibit that as a concern.
So you're going to take down the existing barn and reconstruct the new barn?
The existing indoor, yeah.
And what is the area that the existing barn is currently located? Is that going to change into a different ag reserve, or is that going to be part of the?
No, it'll be extruded out, and then the area in the front, or I guess that's the west of the barn, which is an area for agricultural structures, will be exchanged for this area over here.
You're
The
just
red-
flopping it.
We're
yeah.
swapping,
Yeah.
same square footage.
So right now, the existing easement is this black dotted line and the red. And we're taking the red and we're
And
moving
putting
it
it
to the
over
green.
Oh, okay.
That's a little,
Oh,
bit,
okay.
a little bit confusing.
Because a lot of the black, because of the change in the code,
Which you can see, the
we
blue
can't use.
line is the 200-foot setback now.
Oh.
So, so we
this-
can't,
So this gives you a better setback situation.
Right.
By moving it. Yep, okay. We get it.
and the only place, and we get advantage under the interpretation of the town code, we can extend along this pre-existing non-conforming setback, but only here.
Right.
with
Yeah.
this property.
With
We
that
wouldn't be
property.
able to do the same thing with this setback to this, because it's a different residential property.
Got it.
And also, that would require demolishing existing buildings, which they still use.
Right. Okay. so
Have
that's-
you, I just had a couple questions, is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, sure.
Have you completed soil testing on this property versus that in terms of the quality of the agricultural
Can't use it.
soils?
Can't use this property right now. Cannot use this property.
I'm just asking you a question.
No, and we,
Yes
we
or
don't.
no?
And we don't think it's relevant because we cannot use this property now because the town board, in its wisdom, changed the setback from 100 to 200,
So it doesn't comply.
so it doesn't comply.
On Tuesday, we did meet with the Agriculture Advisory Committee, and
Okay.
in
That
this
was my second question,
Yes,
thank
in
you.
this, you're welcome. In this particular instance, because we are hugging this property line as much as we can, and there's not really much else that we can do because of the setbacks, they didn't give a determination, they're waiting to kind of think about it a little bit, but they didn't object to it for that, for the reasons of soils and such. They
And this
didn't-
gives you a little bit more breathing room by
Right.
moving it over.
But it also, it's keeping it out of the, it's not like it's being,
You're not
it's still
taking up
hugging
space.
an area of the, of the ag reserve.
There would still be open farmland that they
Yeah, yeah.
could use,
Yeah.
right?
Not only
Makes
for the
sense.
purposes of agriculture, but also for the other purposes which people,
Down this building?
you know,
Yeah, the
sort of
reconstructing it.
recognize, but it's part of the ag preserve program is also an open space program. And
Yeah.
so, but in any event, the reason I don't think it's germane is because I can't build in there anyway.
Anthony, could you circulate the resolution for this ag reserve establishment, just so we can look at that?
It was put on the map. It's on the filed map. and
You want the original or the
Well,
modified?
two, why don't we show it, because it was.
Thank you, Anthony.
I'll get whatever information before.
Yeah, but I'm showing you, what you're gonna find, you mean the resolution for the planning board approval for the map? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Well, but
Is it okay if I look at that
Of course it's
record?
okay, but this is, what you're looking at is the approved subdivision map, which
Right.
grew out of the resolution, so this is probably just as,
The language of that.
that's what it came
Probably
out of.
that language.
Okay.
The language of the agricultural reserve.
Yeah, what date is that?
Probably the most, they probably want to look at the most recent one, because this only had two
Just
different
look at the file
reserves.
date. Just look at the file date, 87.
Yes.
No, that's the health department. Where's the
When was it?
87?
1987?
1987. So the ag reserve restrictions were originally here, and then they got modified
In 96.
in 96.
Okay.
So the reason I said the map is just clearer and speaks, this map grew out of the resolution.
Right, so you've been looking at it, and it's okay for me to look at it now.
Of course.
Thanks.
And
Okay.
copies of the covenants were filed with the,
With the-
of all the covenants that are on the property were filed with the, this request to review it. So they're on the file, so it's.
Great.
So let me just check to see if there isn't somebody on Zoom who wants to speak to this. Is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak to Meadowview Covenant Amendment?
Is anybody on Zoom, Kevin?
There
are 0 people on Zoom.
0 people. And anyone here wishes to speak?
They all went to bed.
But I do, in all fairness, I did have a conversation outside with Mr. Ferguson,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure where he is. Maybe
Maybe
he
he
bailed,
left.
but I
Mhm.
feel just honor bound to let you know that he was concerned about, but I think there's a fixture, a pre-existing non-conforming fixture in the front of the property, so he explained to me, and he wanted to make sure that it wasn't something like that.
Right, no
As
light
anything would have to be
trespass.
shielded,
Right,
have to
no-
be dark
You'll be in
light
for the new,
compliant.
we'll
for
do
the site plan
that.
when you
Yeah.
apply for the new
Yeah.
barn, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate
That'll
your
come in on the
honesty.
site plan.
Okay, so,
Motion to close.
motion to close
10
the
days.
10-day written period, Dennis, and second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Thank you.
abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, number 4 is Long
Tesla.
Island Resource Corp., the Tesla application.
I'm reading.
And
George is reading.
George is reading that.
Do we have notice?
Do we have notice?
We do.
We do.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 8, 2023 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the site plan application entitled Long Island Resource Corp. Tesla. The proposed site plan special exception application is for a motor vehicle dealer use in an existing 19,242 square feet building located on a 2.98 acre property situated in the Highway Business Zoning District at 54 Montauk Highway within the hamlet of Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-132-2-7.
Thank you. John Bennett and Reed, 212 Windmill Lane for the applicant, and Lisa Poyer is with me this evening as well. This is an application seeking a site plan special exception to permit the establishment of a car dealership motor vehicle repair center for an automotive use. We were previously before the board with a pre-submission conference. The board adopted a pre-submission report dated December 15, 2022. The pre-submission report confirmed this is a type 2 action and no further environmental review is required. Since the filing of the application with the planning board, we've received comments from the town engineers, which have been fully addressed and submitted to the board. In addition, on Tuesday, we attended a meeting with the ARB to discuss the referral that had been made. The ARB was supportive of the application. The one thing they did request, and you'll deal with this on the site plan, is that the pylon sign be modified to include the street number, which it doesn't have on it now, or street address, and we'll of course address that in the final design. Not aware of any comments from the public to date. There may be some. This is a large site. It's 2.948 acres in the highway business zone. It's perfectly located in that automotive corridor. Interestingly enough, which really helps with the traffic, I know I have clients who sometimes balk at the idea of a coordinated access, but the development of the of the adjacent property to the west, there was coordinated access required along the back. As a matter of fact, the other day when I went to post the property, as opposed to going out to the intersection of 39 and 27, I actually came in off of Flying Point Road.
Came off.
And took the right end, came around in the back, so
Good.
it actually works.
It's good, it does work.
Are the driveways onto 27, they're still there? Are they still being used? The
I'm-
driveways on and off of 27?
In the current, yeah, it's still Colette, yeah. But we're agreeing to some limitations. Lisa? Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Lisa Poyer with Twin Forks Permits on behalf of the applicant. We are going to utilize the existing curb cuts as they are, and we have also agreed to do a right-hand turn only exiting onto Montauk Highway. So that will help alleviate some of the traffic concerns there, we hope. And that's in the traffic report that we had submitted as well.
Okay.
Which is nice itself, which is great, but it's relatively close to a traffic control device, which does help.
Absolutely.
Help traffic a lot.
You can't go left from there.
Yeah, no, it's.
Take your life in your hands.
So.
So, any other questions from the board? We've seen this several times. Is there anyone on Zoom for the Long Island Resource Corp. application? No one? Okay. So we will entertain a motion for a 10-day written comment period by Kate, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Have a nice week.
Thank
Have a
Thanks.
nice evening.
Take care.
And presumably a
You
nice
too.
late dinner.
Sorry about that, John.
It was interesting.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, number 5 is the wine room. Do we have, what, Christine? Christine, we have notice? Okay, we have notice.
That's me.
And Tom,
That's me.
please.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 8th, 2023, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission application entitled The Wine Room. The application proposes to expand parking and install new drainage and septic system associated with the proposed change of use from a salon to a restaurant/wine bar situated in the Village Business Zoning District located at 76 West Montauk Highway within the hamlet of Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-223-2-5.1.
How are you?
Okay, please.
Good evening, members of the board.
Just your name for the record,
sure.
please.
Paul Sigismondi.
Okay.
So as he stated in our the statement there, all it is a change of use from, currently it's been vacant for a while. Before that, it was a hair salon. Now it's being converted to a wine room. When it says wine room / restaurant, it's approved as a off-premise catering type restaurant. Not that there's catering happening, just meaning that the food is made off-premise and all it does is get plated and served there. Everything's disposable. It's not a restaurant per se. And it's, grapes and cheese and the little things that you like to have with your wine. As far as that goes. The rest is just improving the lot to bring it up to conformance to code. There are some pre-existing non-conforming things like as far as the lot width and setbacks and whatnot to side yards, but the parking lot's been expanded to hold the amount of cars that are required by code. The drainage has been added in, and of course a new IA sanitary system to bring it up to Suffolk County standards.
What's the parking calculation?
I believe it's 16.
60?
16.
16?
Yes.
And how many tables?
It's 38 occupancy.
38 occupancy, so there's 38 seats.
So it's not a wet use here, you don't?
No,
Health
not officially,
departments,
no. No.
So you'll have food prepared, or you'll just have food that's not
That's-
prepared, but just assembled?
Yeah, it's just brought in there and then served there.
You put it together.
Everything's on disposable flatware. There's no dishwashing facilities.
Okay, you have to
Yeah.
come up.
It's heat and serve.
Oh, so you have a warming kitchen.
There will be a warming kitchen, but there's no dishwashing facilities needed or anything like that. It's all, actually, the food service permit is totally approved. Health Department for the wastewater. We just actually need the secret back from the town, and that will get approved because the testing of the existing leaching system, which is being removed, was done. And by removing it, it will perform the remediation that was needed. Obviously, being a hair salon, there was one item that had a small hit, but when we remove, in the report it says, when we remove it, it will basically perform the remediation needed.
So there's one bathroom in the restaurant?
There is one, yes.
Are you replacing it with an AI system at all?
Yes, there's an AI system
You
that's
just
been
said.
approved, yes.
Okay. It's been a long day.
That's okay.
What is the, so
I
like
hear my
Suffolk
pillow
County
calling.
has like stick stand to food establishment, like threshold, and yours is off-premise caterer, like in perpetuity, or what is?
Well,
the-
it's labeled, it's labeled as a bar tavern,
Okay.
but it is not a bar tavern. It's just they only have so many criteria.
understand,
I had to
yeah.
meet with them twice just to get everybody on the same page to figure out what the best way to categorize this so that we weren't penalizing them, because if it was a full restaurant,
Right.
it would have been 1/3 the amount of seats.
Right.
So, so we met several times. with the heads and worked everything out. Everybody's happy with,
That makes a lot of sense, because I think that when Duran's was open, they had the same thing. They
Yeah.
used to warm up frozen pizzas and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, then to make
So
them go
just
through a whole
the warming
food service
of it.
thing, yes,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you
But
have
food
a-
service has been worked out. They already have that approval. We're just waiting for wastewater, who, like I said, just needs a document from you, which is the secret.
You have a liquor license, or you're applying for a liquor license? What's?
Wine.
Hold on.
serving wine, you have to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
Can you
wine,
just
oh, sorry,
identify?
Dana Corlito. So I'm the lessee and also the owner and GM of the business. Wine and beer only, no alcohol. And so that's already been applied for. Everything, we're fully approved. The only thing left is to give them notice within 10 days of opening so they can officially trigger the license. That's where we are now.
Thank
Where is this relative to?
It's
That's
it's
what I was
diagonally
just
across, I
gonna
just looked it up, it's diagonal, you know what a
where the
7-Eleven
volunteer
is?
fire department
Yeah.
is?
It's
right across from the fire department.
Yeah.
Fire department's right.
Oh,
George,
okay.
is a 7-Eleven.
They don't like it.
Diagonally across the street from 7-Eleven.
Okay.
Yep, right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They don't like that.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I had
in
to
that-
look it up
it's in
myself.
that building. It's that little
Yeah, I was
building.
just.
Yes.
You couldn't tell from the previous photo, but no.
So you're making any architectural changes to it, or?
No.
No.
Nope.
Signage, you'll come back to us for it, or?
There's already an existing sign on the front,
And what are you calling it, the wine bar?
It's being called
the wine room.
Wine room.
It's quaint.
Do you have an existing, the wine room location?
I just designed everything.
Oh, okay.
No, the idea was to make it
Okay, we have to-
fungible around time, so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Can we see the site plan again? Well, I guess we'll look at it again. I just
Yeah,
wondered.
yeah.
I have an extra one on me if you'd like to see
So
it.
it's up.
Sure. Thanks. But yeah, I mean,
So I have an Anna Sanchez. That's, okay. You're not speaking, right?
You're good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anna's my AGM,
This is
so
the
we're
actual
partners
lot.
in crime.
So she supports
Health
this.
department allows to use the other lot owned by the
Okay.
owner,
She
which
better.
has a vacant building to use towards our.
Double check.
And this is all been approved or pre-approved, let's say, we're just waiting.
Is that the site plan? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember,
so
it's
you'll show the
pre-submission.
parking
Yeah.
on here.
That's pre-submission?
Yeah.
Okay.
30 days.
30 days.
Did you draw inspiration from Barik in Babylon?
You know what? I love Freak.
That's what I've thought of when you say,
Yeah, no, it just, love the whole kind of concept of just having something like with international flair and right in town, which is great. Walking distance to the railroad station, just something accessible to bring people to downtown too, even for the local businesses. I know a lot of the proprietors, they're like, oh my God, this would be so great.
Great idea, yeah.
Because the scuttles and then with the wine.
So, and it wouldn't be seasonal. It's all year round.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm a resident.
Chamber of Commerce building?
I'm a resident, so.
Chamber of
It
Commerce
looks like
building?
it would be for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, it says, yes?
One last thing to add. As far as the building department goes, it's already been inspected and improved, so on their
They're
end,
here
everything's ready to
because
go.
They went inside the building without the approval.
Oh, okay.
You don't know anything about that.
Right. Okay, so it's a special
Pre-submission.
pre-submission
Yeah,
conference,
pre-submission,
that's so entertain a motion to close with a 30-day written comment period by Craig, second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn by Dennis,
Second by George.
George.
Strongly seconded by George.
All in favor, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Can't we just stay a little longer?
One question then. So